So did I. I just finished it up.
I just started it. It was so good. Welcome, everyone. We are back with another episode of Carpets and Coffee, where we literally just chit-chat and talk a couple hours away of Morelia stuff and drink coffee. And there's usually snake talk and coffee talk. And I got to say...
musings.
Yeah, there's something. Yeah. This morning, I had lofty ambitions that didn't pan out. I was like, all right, I'm going to get up at 6:45. I'm going to just hit the ground running. I'm going to drive to Stockton. I'm going to go to the Sportsman's Warehouse. I'm going to get shotgun shells right when they open early, go get coffee with my buddy, come back before we record. And then I was like, they don't open till 9, so that's not happening. My buddy's working, so that's not happening. And I slept my alarm. I was like, no, I'm going back to bed. I needed a good night's sleep, and right now this coffee is hitting so perfect.
Is it?
I needed it. I burnt the damn crap out of my lip last week because I put the coffee in this like thermos that kept it so scalding hot for hours that by the time I wanted to drink it, it still hurt.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, so now I've let it rest.
Bad.
So
it's not good.
No.
It's like when you make pizza and you know it's smoldering hot right out the oven, but that's when
you still bite it.
You're like, this is gonna hurt, but I love it.
And then you're just ruined for the rest of the day because you're not gonna taste it anyway.
Yeah, you burn the roof of your mouth.
You ruined it.
Oh my goodness. So no, but this coffee is perfect right now. You guys have probably been up and productive and doing stuff, and I'm like,
hell yeah.
Not me today.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was worried I wasn't going to be able to do it because I was feeling so crappy yesterday from the shot. So I let myself sleep in, and I feel great. It worked.
Good. I'm the one non-vaccinated person here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got mine about 8:00 this morning. I got mine.
Woo!
Nice.
Yeah. Early.
Yeah, they said about 12 hours is if you're going to feel stuff, you're going to feel it like 12 hours in, you know? So I don't know. We'll see.
Take the rest of the day off. Maybe
very
tomorrow.
Well done.
Maybe tomorrow.
Oh, but yeah. But you were talking about sleep, and I'll just, we were talking about it before we came on, and like, I was telling you about how I was talking to Nipper and I just felt like shit, man. I just couldn't get anything together and like just dragging. We didn't do NPR on Thursday because I didn't feel good. And it was, I just didn't feel right. Nipper's yelling at me. I got to get sleep.
Of course.
I get sleep. Man, was he right? I feel like I'm 20 again.
Woo! Dude, it's huge. It makes all the difference. All the difference when you have to juggle stuff. Even for just a day off, like your day off it's meant to be enjoyed or be productive, whatever you have in mind. And if you're not like well rested, you're just gonna squander that day.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So
it's true.
I'm ready, but now I'm gonna get hit with the shot later on. I'll probably be on death's door tomorrow. Like,
hopefully not. I've heard it go both ways. I've heard the people that are like, nothing. So you could very well be fine.
Setting alarm. Check on Eric in 12 hours.
Yeah. Hey Siri. Everybody's things just go bleep.
Please remind me to check on Eric.
Yeah.
But I did on the coffee front. I was on Amazon and I'm cruising around just looking at coffee stuff or whatever, and I stumble upon real true Australian coffee shipped from Australia.
Ooh.
What? So it comes tomorrow.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it because I can finally taste what Australian coffee tastes like without the milk.
I wonder if they sprinkle a little bit of like Australian dirt in there just because.
I would love it.
Yeah.
I was just thinking if we were bad people, which we're not, sacks of coffee beans present opportunity.
You sick man.
Kidding.
You
100% kidding. I would never. Jokes.
Lucas is a wonderful.
I just rewatched Breaking Bad. That's why.
Yeah, Lucas is an ethical human being, and just want to throw that out there. His jokes are seriously just jokes.
Yes. The views of this individual do not represent the views of the Empire Network.
There you go.
I'm kidding. I'm
just kidding.
But yeah, because when you were actually in Australia, you couldn't get a cup of black coffee without all the other stuff in there, right? That was kind of the trouble.
No, yeah, 100%. Yeah, just
Wild
black coffee.
Wild Timor coffee.
Yes,
award-winning Australian coffee.
And then, the other thing that sucked me in, the company's called Wild Timor. And I'm like, come on, this is screaming my name.
Yeah. Ooh, that looks good. I might have to order some of that and try that out.
Yeah. I'll let you know on next week's Carpets and Coffee if it's any good.
Yeah, that'll be
Tune
sweet
in to hear it live.
Yeah. Oh man.
Maybe we'll hit them up.
Moscow.
We should get
Moscow. Nice.
We could go full coffee snob and prepare like a little rubric and like check the boxes every week.
There you go.
I like it.
I like it.
Grading.
Get on it, intern.
Riley's been waiting a long time to say that.
Did the intern just call me an intern?
I think so. I don't know.
We're both interns.
Maybe Owen graduated him to.
I have the biggest beard on this show.
No, I know. I'm just kidding.
I have the biggest beard on this show.
I'm coming for you though.
Yeah. Yeah, don't shave it for like 10 years.
Me and Lucas, man, we're really catching up,
Yeah.
Like,
I just do it because like it's not a thing in my family to be able to grow a beard. Like my dad couldn't grow a beard if he wanted to.
Right.
And I can't. I'm the only one who can't. So I just show up looking absolutely Grizzly Adams as hell, and they're like, "What the heck?" And I'm like, "Hey, don't be jealous,
There you go.
So, but one of these days I'll break down and get one of those like nice beard grooming kits and like really dial it in, and just gotta let it grow.
Reptiles brought to you by Dollar Shave Club.
Oh
there
man,
you go.
You're good. You're hired.
Ryan says you're the intern with the most seniority.
It's true.
So Lucas is the intern that goes around delivering mail and getting everyone's coffee. I'm the intern who stands at the door and runs records, I guess.
I take Owen's lashes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, because I lash out on him. He needs to direct that somewhere.
Yeah. Especially because now we're trying to be good stewards and examples and not picking on people like, retake or ball python community members. He's got to get it out somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I suggested he lift weights or something like that, but he said that's too much work. So I don't know.
Yeah. That is.
He'd be looking like Nick Mutton.
Yeah. Oh boy.
We can watch Owen and Nick Mutton wrestle in a cage match.
God.
To the death.
Oh man.
I would pay big money to see that.
Winner gets all the rough scales.
That's right. They're wrestling
wagering snakes.
I think if you put roughies on the line, Owen would go like into some weird Hulk mode. Like everybody'd be like, "What the hell happened?" He just explodes.
I can hear Nick in my Nick voice. It's like, clearly you haven't thought about this all the way, Owen. Clearly.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Yep.
That would be too much.
Yes. So, from last week's episode, I have a new arrival, a blue tongue skink. Man,
that's a really beautiful northern, right?
Oh yeah. I got it from Justin Julander, Australian Addiction Reptiles. Man, so cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
You know how, like, I don't know, I've never really been a skink guy. I don't know why. Like, it just kind of like, I don't know. I just never really like looked at them or dove into them all that much. So I don't know. You know how I'm sort of on this, like, looking at other reptiles and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that would be pretty cool to have. And my wife is like, yeah, I really, that would be cool. I would like that. I'm like, okay. So I'm like looking around and trying to figure out, like, who has what and whatnot. And turns out, and I think I kind of knew this before, but like when you really start to look at it, they like follow the same exact colors as carpets, depending on where they're from.
Really?
It's wild, you know, like northern blue tongue skinks look like Darwin colors, and easterns look like coastal colors, and
westerns look like imbricata.
Yeah, and the Centralians look like, you know, the
Reds?
Bradley. Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
And of course, the ones down south, they're real dark and black, you know. So it's like diamonds.
Same with the New Guinea ones, the Indonesian ones. They have a lot of natural variety with the same color palette as the poplin carpets.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Oh.
So that would be what?
Those are awesome lizards.
Convergent evolution for pigment.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess so. Yeah, I mean,
it tells you. It definitely tells you that the pigment and the color is very tailored to the climate.
It's significant at the very least.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Some significance given that it's present in both.
That's so cool.
So that puts you up to what? 3 animals with legs?
Yeah, 2 Ackies and 1 blue tongue.
Are they in the same area? Same room?
Yeah, they're right there. Yep.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Right over there. Yeah. So, but I think it was like it was just kind of chilling there, and then it's like its tongue comes out, and it's just like this blue tongue, and I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty cool,
dude. They're so cool.
That's why they call you that.
How about that?
I filmed one lapping up a cracked quail egg once in slow motion on a macro lens. And it's the coolest thing to see that tongue and how it behaves and how it unfurls out from underneath, because they don't show you all of it unless they're like really upset, and then they can actually fan it out. So like if they're just calmly flicking, it just looks like a tongue. But when they're really stressed out or like really putting on the display, it comes out and it can fold out and get wider, and they can really like make it big and blue and flush a lot of blood vessels into it. And it's impressive, man. It's really cool to see.
Right.
You know, obviously hope you never stress it out to that point, but if you do see it, it's, you know, it's really neat. They're probably not as busy body, cute little neat lizards like your Ackies are, but they're really cool things, and you can feed them a lot of cool stuff. And
man,
they're just, I don't know. They're awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I got it set up in a little enclosure that's kind of got UV on it, and a little hot spot and stuff like that, and variety is the key to the diet and stuff like that. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I dig it.
Now you can start building and making cool foam and rock ledges, like what is it, Coop's Reptiles. He makes for his blueies. He makes those like hides and really gets into it and films it and shows it off. You could start doing stuff like that. So
I ordered I want to say it's a 2-gallon bucket of that Zoopoxy stuff from Mike Stefani from Mike's Monitors. And we had him on the show at MBR, and we were talking to him and whatnot, and like I was really liking his enclosures. Well, they have a group too. It's called Zoopoxy something. And basically it shows you like what can be done with it. It is freaking amazing what you can do with this stuff.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, like they're making rocks and ledges and tree branches and like all this stuff, and it looks so realistic. It's crazy.
Does it adhere to like PVC and whatnot, or does it have to be on a certain surface?
I think from what I understood from Mike, and once it comes, he's going to fill me in with more details, but he said, yeah, it's pretty good that way. Like I know what I saw one of the people do on the Facebook group was they sort of had like chicken wire almost that they formed into like this tree branch, and I guess they just Zoopoxied it up, and then when they were all done, it looked freaking amazing. Like
and then you could stamp texture into it. Yeah. Using like latex molds and things.
I guess as good as your artistic skills are is like, if you're really good at that.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Building any enclosure features or full-on enclosures for that matter is tons of fun when you have those types of tools and like artistic ability at hand, people supporting you, and like you can really just make it specific. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Like the process is fun. the end result is fun. Seeing the animal use it is satisfying. So it's cool.
Like,
For sure.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's really taking it to that like private
Like,
at your house zoo status that we talk about. Yeah.
and that's sort of like, I guess, kind of like what I'm, if you're gonna do it right, you do it right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, why mess around?
So the guy who built the 5 big monitor exhibits at our shop, he makes latex molds of like tree bark and rock texture, and then he keeps the latex. And so he built these exhibits. He used concrete, not Zoopoxy.
Okay.
But like the process is essentially the same, and he stamped it all in. So there's like these fake logs that look like it's all bark, and there's fake rock that's all like stamped, and then he like went back in and chiseled and smoothed it out and added color dyes and stuff. So it's amazing what can be done with it. Yeah. People making branches and mangroves. Yeah.
Kind of going with like a paper mache first and then covering it. Yeah.
But it's just tough as all get out. It's super durable. So
yeah,
it
this is
take
the
some
finish.
beating.
Like, look at that.
It's amazing.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
man.
That's amazing.
I can finally, I was, in my head right away, I'm thinking of like, I think of that, like that Bredley cage, or, having like those white gum trees where it's like actually white, and it's like on that orange background and that contrast between the two. Wow. That looks sharp, but
yeah. For me, like, cause I don't have the space to build something, I would just go get a eucalyptus cutting and like treat it somehow.
We've got them all over the place here.
Dude, same here. They're in the park.
Really?
Right, they fall over every
yeah.
windstorm.
I don't know if I've ever told you the story, Eric,
Might have
but
to send me some clippings or something.
oh man. Yeah, no, it's a problem. Like a lot of my work days for the field biology stuff is just watching people cut down eucalyptus, because they basically took over the East Bay Hills.
And they have very shallow roots and they fall over all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow.
A long time ago, people brought them over thinking that they could serve as a windbreak on the headlands and also like fuel a different lumber industry, but they brought the wrong species. And the one that they brought shatters when you tried to make it into lumber. So now there's just eucalyptus everywhere with
everywhere. They're all over. You drive around like Oakland Zoo, they surround Oakland Zoo. Oh man, it's crazy.
When are we gonna stop with this? Like, we somehow know better than nature kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what we try to like, when we try to like, oh, we're doing this because we're trying to save it, it always screws up, man.
It never works. Like, no,
it never works.
So there's Aboriginal folks or folks that live off the land, like true native like people, and they're the folks, that's the mentality that you're talking about. That's the relying on nature. We need to nurture nature because nature nurtures us sort of thing. And ever since tool making has happened, we've been like, oh, we're manipulating stuff to our advantage. We can make it better.
Yeah.
And it's been game over. So we're screwed.
I don't know. But now that I got my second shot, man, I'm ready to go to Australia. Who's in?
Right. Let's do it. I'm in.
Me.
Oh man.
I'm there's a transformation going on in my head about my collection over time, and it's I don't know what the future holds, but
you're gonna become a beautiful butterfly.
I need to travel.
But or that.
But like I need to focus and I need to travel, and I don't know.
Is there somewhere you're feeling an itch to go outside of Australia? Because that's the given, right? But
no.
Fair enough.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd be happy to go anywhere. Like, I haven't been to Costa Rica since I was a kid. I'd love to go back. I've been there twice and herped around there and walked through the rainforest as a kid and caught iguanas and, saw sloths and toads and monkeys and birds and turtles and all sorts of cool stuff there. But I'd like to go now that I have an appreciation and a safety factor, so I can go out at night and maybe do some real herping in the forest, go try and find fair to land, start frogs. things like
Yeah.
that. So,
Hell yeah.
but I miss Costa Rica, man. There's something different about when you go somewhere and there aren't telephone wires and there aren't cars and you can ride a horse through the mountains for 3 hours and not worry about, somebody trying to get a hold of you, and you can just end up where you end up as long as you make it back down the hill before sundown. It's like the simpler life. The food is affordable. The people are smiling. You don't have to worry about somebody running in your pharmacy and stealing your drugs. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
And I don't know, like, it's just different. But yeah, a little slice of that would be cool. I could use a refresher. But yeah, Australia. There's just so much of Australia to see that it's like, where would I like to go? Australia there, Australia there, Australia
Totally.
there, Australia there,
man.
Australia there.
It's not a quick in and out.
I'd like to go there 100 times.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah. I'll tell you this, you guys are younger than me. If you have the opportunity, you should take advantage of every time you can go. Every single time you can go, you should just do it, make it happen. Yeah. Don't putz around and wait and say, I'll do it then, I'll do it there, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Just do it, because I regret not doing it sooner. And I regret some of the trips that I could have went on and didn't. And all you can do is just say, okay, well, I made a mistake, so now I'm gonna, that's why I'm so like passionate about people. And for me, it's Australia. For you guys, it seems to be Australia. But for other people, they might want to go to, Biak, or they want to go to Borneo, or they want to go to Africa, or wherever it is, Madagascar, all those things. Like, just do it, man, because you don't know how long. And the other thing is, like, with Australia, it's like, with the cane toads and stuff, you want to try to get to those spots where you can get there before they do, and, I don't know.
Yeah, that would be amazing. We take it for granted now. Yeah, look at that. Lorga lived there for 5 years. It's crazy.
Wow.
I even bought this book. It just came in the mail today because Keith is like a big time bird guy. Right. Oh, nice. So like when I was there with Keith before, it's actually pretty thick. But when I was there with Keith before, he's like talking about all these different birds. And I'm like, you don't, who knows, maybe later in life, I might be a birder or something. And I would regret not paying attention, because it's not like you can go there all the time or any, you know what I'm saying? So like, you gotta sort of take advantage of what you can when you're there and try to soak in as much as you can, so I got to study up on my Aussie birds.
I just know that, like, as soon as I start going to Australia with any sort of regularity, i.e. like once a year, I'm going to want stuff that, this morning I grabbed my phone and like, it was like, what time is it? Oh, okay. And I opened it and I opened Instagram, and the first thing I see is East Bay Vivarium posting babies of Rankin's dragons. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, man.
I want those.
Yeah.
And just for the sheer fact that they're not your standard dragon, and I could see myself building like a black sand, like spinifex grass, like crazy tank for them, and like having these little dragons running around, and like that would be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like me and Nipper talk about, all the time about, like, since, when you come back from there, you want to try to look at pictures or look at something that sort of like brings you back to that spot. And, for me, that's sort of where I'm at with my reptiles and my collection and stuff like that. I want to be able to walk into my reptile room and have that feeling of, oh yeah, I remember seeing that. And like, I don't know, like these things that I sort of forget come back to me. You know what I mean? As you're like sort of revisiting these things and stuff. Like when I last week, I was on a photo sharing crazy mission of all these pictures that I even forgot I had. And I was looking at them, I'm like, oh shit, I remember this. Oh,
that was awesome, though.
That's like a quarter of the pictures, and it's nuts. It's great.
I was living vicariously through that.
Yeah, man.
Like the 3 hours that you were sending pictures.
I'm just like, I was like, I know at some point these guys are gonna be like, stop sending pics, or maybe send them all at once, so it's not like.
I leave my phone on silent.
Oh, there you are, smart man.
It's funny too, because I think you were like maybe accidentally hitting the little thumbs up button as you were doing it. So it'd be
Oh,
like
yeah.
picture, thumbs up, picture,
Yeah.
picture, thumbs up. Like,
This is little Hobbit thumbs, man. You know, like,
it's
what
so funny. Yeah.
But yeah. So so I have a question, Riley. You're talking about we were going to talk about in this episode like various setups for carpet pythons, and like, you know, I think at this point a lot of people have talked about like how you can keep them better. Or like some of the things you could do if you want to make a display, or like how would you keep them, you know, breed, all this different stuff, but we never like go into detail to talk about it. So I figured I got so many emails, and what triggered this is there was like, I got like 5 emails from people asking about how to set up the first carpet, you know, and I was like, okay, well, maybe that's a good topic to bring up, you know, to sort of to go in the direction. So, but my first question is, before we get into that, you're talking about Spinifex grass. How do you recreate that? Like, how would you recreate that? That's sort of what I'm trying to do and trying to figure out a way to do it.
I was actually like Googling last week to see if I could find any fake Spinifex looking plastic plants. And
any luck? Yeah, me
no.
neither.
And if somebody made that, they would definitely
there used to be fake plant grasses made by some of those companies, and I had them at the zoo years ago. We used them in displays, and they were fantastic. I had like big tufts of them that I put in with like the small woods and knolls, and they'd like disappear in them and hide in them. They're perfect. So they used to be made. They might still be made. What you might try, instead of looking them up as a reptile product, is looking them up as like floral arrangements or things like that, because there's a lot of companies that do stuff for like weddings or ceremonies or backgrounds and displays, and so they do a lot of those same fake plants of the same caliber quality without the reptile markup. So there might be some more digging around in there that might yield something, but yeah, I wouldn't know off the top of my head, because like we don't even carry anything in the shop. But those fake grasses, they used to make some really good, rigid, nice. Like I had ones that were like tan and looked like they were dried grasses, and then I had green ones that were nice and lush too. So that would be perfect. We'll have to do some more digging around, because I bet you there's a company that does like this floral displays or fake displays or arrangements that has something similar that would be suitable.
Right.
Not super Spinifex-y, but like stuff like this I really like. I got this from the vivarium, actually.
Yeah, that looks like it was made by that resin in the bottom of a jar type mold.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
grasses, it's tough to find grasses.
Yeah. And then I was like, I thought maybe you could even like maybe set up like a little grow spot where you could actually grow.
You could
some type of grass, but they're looking at some on Wayfair. Get out. I gotta look this up.
So I was thinking Alex hook us up.
So while you're looking that up, there's a company called Komodo. It's a small reptile company. They make like various products, and they're slowly getting their name out there. They're under the Central Pet Distribution umbrella, and they started making these little feeder cups that we sell in the shop. One grows dandelions and one grows grass. And it's just a little cup that's pre-seeded with the proper soil and seeds, and you just, water it and leave it in there. And it's meant to be for edible stuff for lizards, but the same concept could apply for just growing. And then before my bullfrog destroyed the tank with grass, I threw just wheatgrass seed in there and watered that in soil, and threw a Zilla LED light over it, and it grew fantastically before the bullfrog killed it. So you could certainly do that, and then just maintain the grass somehow.
I got I guess this is what they're talking about. It's not like,
there you go. Yeah, and you could pull them out of the whatever. They're usually, if they're fake, they're usually stuck in like a little foam foam block or something the size of whatever pot they're in, so it like fits seamlessly.
Right. Yeah, it's no exact match, but
yeah, your closest bet is probably looking outside of the reptile world for stuff.
See, like you want something that the reptile can kind of get in, right? You know, like you want, I mean, that's kind of the point, that they want to sort of be able to hide in there. But yeah, okay. All right. Well, now I got a different way to look at it. So, all right.
Yeah.
Some options.
Yeah, I've had to do a lot of searching for supervisors when looking up things in bulk, when, you know, trying to put together big orders for the zoo, something like that, trying to get like, you know, tons of plants for lots of exhibit overhauls, etc., and had to start looking elsewhere. So,
right.
Yep.
So, okay. So I guess we kind of talked about that.
So Spinifex grass adds a lot of cool accent to enclosures.
Yeah,
for
man.
Sure.
Yeah, it really makes it. I sort of did the same thing. I went to like one of those, what do you call it? Like, I don't know, like craft stores or whatever. And they had like the fake, you know, grass that was kind of like that. I put that in the Ackies enclosure, but it's not the same because I had to kind of break it apart, and it kind of had like, they kind of put glitter in it or something. So I had to clean all that off. And I don't know. I just looking for straight,
just grass.
Yeah. You know, so,
yeah.
But, so I don't know. Let's maybe start with like, if you got a baby carpet, right? And you're just having one, how would you guys set it up?
And are we talking like with, you know, the common commercially available stuff you would find at most reptile shops?
Sure. Yeah.
So like at, you know, any specialty reptile shop or Petco or whatever.
Sure. Or something you could order online or what, you know, whatever.
Yeah. For me, just, you know, knowing their natural history and husbandry, if I were getting like you know, a baby that's had, say, like 5 meals and 2 sheds and it's ready to go, I would probably start it out in one of those Exoterra nano talls. It's about, something like that. Yeah, the nano size is a great footprint for a little guy. And
it has.
And they make that perfect little cube one. They make a tall one. And then you can go up in size for the 12 by 12 base, 12 by 12 cube, 18 tall, so on and so forth. And I would do something like that. The nice thing is that background you can either choose to leave in or take out. So depending on how much clutter and things you want to put in there, if it gets in the way, just take it out. I would do, you know, a nice soil bedding, a good hide, a water bowl, and then I would fill the top area with some sort of like cluster of fake plants or something that are kind of either wedged in there or set rigid in the soil, that if the animal wants to go up there and feel like kind of tucked in the foliage, it can, or if it wants to be on the ground under there. And then, you know, with a small cube like that, I would probably just run a small little heat pad on the side, perhaps.
Right. Yeah. That would, to me, I'm kind of with you. I was kind of thinking like, you know, if I was going to do a carpet setup where I was giving babies UV, I was thinking like, what could I get? So I bought this just to sort of experiment with it and see. And I was like, yeah, that would make a good, you know, a good baby carpet cage.
You know, it's a good light, actually, and it's not made by Exoterra. Zilla has these line of lights. They're low wattage, and they have ones that are either just the basking or a heat and UV, and they're usually low profile. And they have some that are this big, as some, you know, that big, and they can accommodate a 25-watt little halogen bulb that at certain heights can get, you know, 100 degrees or so, but it can also hold a UV bulb. You could do something small like that. But if you're, with a small enclosure like that, the challenge is
the heat, right?
Yeah, because you can overdo it and eliminate all thermal gradient with even a low wattage bulb. So that's why I think doing some sort of small heat pad on the side, or just, you know, a belly one with a small light overhead if you want to provide UV or just some sort of ambient light. That's how I would do it in a smaller enclosure like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's funny, actually. That is pretty much what I had for my first carpet neonate, was that exact setup.
Okay.
That little Exoterra.
How did it work?
It worked fine. I started out, you know, because this was pretty early on, so I was figuring out what I was doing with animals. So I started out with just a basic heat bulb. I got one of the red ones because I thought I'd be able to sleep at night if it was red. That was wrong. So like I immediately went and swapped it out for a ceramic bulb in one of those cage fixtures that kind of just dangled above. So I did heat from above on a thermostat, which was probably in hindsight not the easiest way to go about it. A heat pad on the side. It worked. Yeah. But I had a probe and in that little thing, and like a big old ceramic that if something went wrong could have easily baked that. You know, it was a really strong heat source for a really small area. You know? And then the other way that I do it now, now I just use the baby rack, but before that was the really secure little Ziploc Tupperwares. It's these ones that have like the foam around the lip.
Clips. Yeah.
They have 4 clips, so it's really secure. And then I'll just put that on top of a heat pad and you know, set it up like I would anything else. And that works really well.
That's easy for quarantine. That's perfect for quarantine stuff, like a quick setup.
For sure.
I do the same.
Yeah, it's I kind of, well, I mean, as far as like when I was breeding and keeping babies, you know, my basic setup was like I did it. It was more it wasn't as naturalistic to the eye, but it still gave the same things that the baby carpet needed, if you will. So I would take, I think I used, I don't know, 6-quart tub or whatever. I got those perches from David Brahms with the cup. And then when I for a while, I was using like hide boxes and stuff for them. Sometimes I would use like toilet paper rolls or paper towel rolls and cut them in half because you could, you know, like recycle them, throw them away, all that kind of stuff. You didn't have to worry about cleaning them, and at least you got another use out of the paper towel roll before you threw it into the recyclables.
Yeah, I got a whole bucket full of those.
Yeah, everybody was saving me paper towel rolls, tons of them. But then I decided I tried something different, and basically I got Sphagnum Moss, and it was like, I think it's from New Zealand. It's that like real clean stuff that comes in like a brick. I would order it on Amazon. It's like, it's almost like khaki color, I guess, as opposed to like stuff you would buy.
The same. Yeah.
Okay. And basically what I did is I just sort of like, I dunked it in water, I squeezed it out, and I would stick it in the back by the, something like that. Exactly. Yep. And I would stick it in the back, and that would be the hide to me. And I got that idea from short tails, right? When I was keeping short tails, Keith had said to me, if you have trouble with them eating or whatever, you might want to just put it all in the bottom, just cover it with, Sphagnum Moss. And because they like to, be underneath and be waiting and that kind of, ambush predator type of deal.
Makes sense.
And yeah, that worked great. They loved that, I kept them that way for quite a while. And, I don't really have babies anymore, but yeah, it was, that worked pretty good. But I wanted to, again, it was my experimenting and trying to see what the difference would make and see if their eating was any better or, just seeing what happened. And, I picked up that to sort of like mess around with, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah.
So that kind of covers how we would set up babies, right? Unless you had something different, Eric.
No. I mean, it's pretty straight ahead.
And then for juveniles and like subadults, let's say like a 2-year-old animal, an animal that's, eating weaned rats or something, small rats, probably inch in diameter,
about 3-4 feet.
Yeah, maybe 3 feet or so, something like that. that's when you can start really getting creative, because once you start getting into larger enclosures, you have more options.
Yeah.
Personally, at that size, I mean, you can always order PVC cages and stuff online, but if we're talking what you're going to find in shops, you're probably not going to find, PVC cages in shops. So the generic Exoterras and stuff, I would do, well, see, even those, they're like, once you get bigger, you get a glass tank and you have screen, you have a hard time keeping humidity in. And, as much as we preach carpets are bulletproof, you will find that those tanks can be rather arid. So Zilla actually makes tanks where the screen lid comes with little plastic inserts into all the mesh regions. And so you can choose how much you limit your ventilation. So I would honestly go for one of those. They're a little more expensive. A 20-gallon, I think, is like $180, which is silly.
Wow.
It's a front opening. It's got the background, and it, you can change the ventilation on the lid, but it's pricey. But a bigger version, something like that, would be my go-to, just because of the limited ventilation. But if you buy a PVC cage or something, you'll be way better off. But yes, then you can give a thermal gradient. Then you can start dealing with basking lamps if you want to go with lights and overhead heating. Assuming if it's just one animal, you're going to make it a nice display. Then you have vertical room for perching, plants, logs, driftwood. You can really get creative. And again, the carpets, they're gonna love whatever you give them. So a bigger water bowl to add surface area evaporation, a little bit larger than what they can fit in, if you can swing it in the enclosure, because that'll help with humidity. Yeah. And then hides on the ground, stuff up top for them to use, perching. If your local shop sells perching, throw it up, or go to a Home Depot and get the closet dowels and rig those up, and either get some of the Galapagos jungle vine and cut it to fit, or get some sticks and treat them yourself, cut them to fit, or do PVC and cut it to fit. You could go as creative as you want with the larger enclosure like that.
Yeah, I would think that so would you guys recommend? So to me, I would say that if you have a snake that size, to me, I would just move it into the adult size cage.
Most of the time, I think they're gonna. Yeah, most of the time, I think they're gonna do just fine. Usually, a 2-year-old animal is confident.
Exactly. Yeah, I've never had trouble with that. People talk about
too much
needing
room,
an intermediate enclosure. Like, I don't know. Carpets are pretty confident animals. Obviously, you might have the odd one out that gets freaked and needs to be in a smaller space. But yeah, for the most part, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one like that. But otherwise,
as long as, in my experience, as long as you're providing plenty of hides and opportunities for them to be in a smaller space, in a bigger space, I've never had an issue with like loss of feed or anything like that from a bigger enclosure. And you're just, when you can do that and successfully, you're helping yourself out right in the future, because that's one less setup that you're gonna have to pay for. And
just clutter it up, fill it up with stuff that the animal can use or hide in or behind, and they won't feel the exposure of a large enclosure.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. I guess that you have to decide which direction you're going to go. If you're going to be, more simplistic. And when I say simplistic, I mean, and again, we're not talking from the breeder's aspect or anything like that. We're talking somebody that's getting a pet carpet, maybe has a couple snake, you know what I mean? Like something that you're going to want to see, like a display or whatever. But like, you can go the route of using stuff like you were talking about, using one of those rods that you'll find in Lowe's with the closet supports for the rods and stuff. Yeah. And you can get that. I think if I were doing that, I would sort of do like a couple.
Oh, sure.
So that it was more of like a ledge to where they can sort of drape or maybe like offset them a little bit or whatever. Rather than just having the chondro style.
Right.
single.
You know what you
perch.
could do too is you could go get PVC and some cutters, keep them at home, buy your own cutters for $15. Go get some small PVC and a bunch of different like unions and corners and elbows, and you can make something really simple. And obviously it's going to look like a white PVC thing. So dress it up. If you're making a nice, beautiful tank, coat it in latex and put coconut core all over it, and then twist some vines all over it, or put moss on it. But you can make sort of like a little PVC platform table with, parts that cross in the middle. So the animal has some middle inserts, but you can make it custom to fit the enclosure. And depending on what your end game is, if you don't care how it looks, then just leave it PVC. If you're, sort of care, you can just wrap vines around it and And if you really care, then you can literally go full on craft time on it and like coat it with material and just kind of make it so it doesn't look like a white PVC perch in there. And you can get creative with it and add plants.
Yeah.
Now,
like I did that with my Apodora.
Oh, did you? Owen sort of uses those tubs that you have, Lucas, and he sort of uses that as sort of a hide / basking or perching spot.
Right. I was just gonna say I threw those in there as lay boxes, right? So full of sphagnum and whatnot. I'm just kind of planning ahead. But since I put them in there, the animals, you can kind of see a head right there. They're using them. Wow, this is hard to do. Okay.
That was just me. I'm always like, wait,
they're using them. The Brettles are using them as like ledges. And just when you were talking just now, Riley, I was thinking about how it could be cool to try and deck them out to look like a weirdly rectangular rock or something like that.
Or
like
hell,
if I cared,
you could even like get cork flats and just glue cork onto it or something. You could go crazy if you want.
Definitely do something with it, because the way that they're utilizing them, I feel like I wouldn't even want to remove them after the breeding season. I might just leave it because it's increasing their accessible surface area and whatnot.
100%.
You could even go super crazy and cut a hole in the side and put one of those Draco portals on it and just leave it in there and have like a little mini enclosure inside the enclosure.
Yeah. That's what Lori does a lot, right? When she's moving from a smaller enclosure to a big enclosure, she just puts the small one inside. And lets the snake figure it out.
So that one snake I have that is like a 2-year-old living in a 6-quart tub who's really shy. I am going to use that method to introduce her to the next enclosure once I have something free.
Nice.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But she is so damn shy, dude. She won't take food off tongs. I leave it in there. It disappears. She hides in her hide all the time. Like terribly shy.
Wow. Interesting.
I don't know what it is.
You never know. They are individuals.
Yep. So
yeah.
And then adults, what would you do for adult? What would be your ideal adult?
So
enclosure?
Now that I'm sort of like I've done 3 different styles, right? I've done cages in the past. I moved to racks, and now I'm sort of moving back to cages. But to me, I think I'm going the route of either building my own or, I was talking to Chris Foley. He's kind of doing cages now and such. So, obviously he's kind of busy at the moment, but and I'm in no rush. But so like diamond python enclosures that I'm looking at right now, I have a couple ideas, but height is key for me more so than, obviously I would think it would be 4 foot, but I think especially, a lot of people have asked me about housing snakes together, and what my thought on that is. And like, I've had some pretty crazy situations happen when I have 2 snakes in the same enclosure. And it's kind of like they miss the rat and they get the snake and, those kind of things, and you're running it underwater and all that stuff. It can be dicey. So you have to think about how you're going to feed them. I think after that, unless you have 2 males together, other than that, I don't know why you would run into any issues.
Yeah. For the two Brettles that I'm cohabbing, it's exactly like you said. It's just it's only dicey during feeding, and I just pull one out and don't risk it. It's not too hard, and then I don't have any issues. But I did have one thing happen like what you described. You learn.
Well, it's like you pull them out, right? And then you go to put them back in, but that snake's still in like feeding mode. So any movement is like boom. And that's sort of how it happened with me, so
interesting.
It's like, oh shit, what do I have to wait 24 hours or like,
some people wait. Yeah. Some people put them in a whole nother tub for a day.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah. I always think about, especially since you just had him on the show, Python Pete's old enclosures with the more vertical orientation, the pull-out tray is substrate. It was like maybe 18 inches wide and like 3 feet tall, and perching, overhead basking light, and the thermal gradient was basically vertical. And it was just a tray on the bottom where the water bowl was, and the animal could defecate and do its thing down there, pull it out for cleaning, changing and stuff. But the animal stayed up in this enclosure that also was glass front or plexi or whatever it was. And I just think about that and how it was only maybe that wide.
Right.
And he had a bunch of them, and it looked so efficient.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot. I just have that image like etched into my brain.
I try to pick a lot of ideas from, so you got Luke from Peachy Scaly Beast, and you got Coop from Coop's Reptiles, and they do some really, and then of course you got Matt Somerville, which oh man, his enclosures are just next level. I mean, and Doc Martin's stuff, what he does with his Mertens monitors and stuff like that. He's got some really cool stuff as well. But I think like actually, I think it was I saw this with Peter Burtz. He sort of did like this rough scale cage when we were talking to him. We were talking about this, and he had like this like lay box, hide box off to the side that he could sort of like see what was going on, get into her if he had to. But visually, when you're looking into the cage, it's sort of just, it still looks natural because of like, there's like different ways you could do it. I know I've seen some people do like, they'll take a box and they'll put like the foam around it. They'll do like that cut foam and sort of then sort of like, go to town with the, what is that stuff called? The tough stuff, like the stuff you sculpt.
Yeah. The great stuff foam, the expanding foam.
That's it. Great stuff. And then, do some really, really cool things. And I think about that, like even with like monitors and stuff, like you want to have that nest box. It's so important, especially with them, to have like that dirt that they can dig into and whatnot. And how do you sort of combine those worlds of doing the naturalistic look, but having the efficiency if you choose to breed, and you don't have to worry about adding nest box or stuff like that. So I think what I'm getting at is you sort of have to figure out what you want and what your plans are. And obviously they may change over time, but like, what would you plan on having one snake? Or are you having two snakes and you're going to try to breed them and see what happens? Like where do you plan to go? So
sure. Yeah. And if it's going to be a display in your living room or something that you don't show off or what, its functionality has to come into analysis before you figure it out.
Right.
And it probably, your plan probably will change. I was chuckling when you were saying that because like, that was the plan, wasn't it? And then what happened?
Whoops.
Yeah.
No, as far as what,
all of us, right?
What most pet shops are going to keep, usually the biggest enclosure you're going to find is an Exoterra large wide, which is a 3 foot by 18 inch by 18 inch front opening. But occasionally, and we have 2 of them right now, you'll find something bigger that's 3 foot by 3 foot by 18 inches deep. And that's usually the biggest glass enclosure commercially available. It's like a $300, 3 by 3 by 18. And I've seen people utilize those quite successfully. Usually getting some sort of piece of like manzanita wood or 2, setting up some vertical sort of like sloped branches, putting a basking lamp overhead, and then having a hide down in the bottom, water bowl, some foliage, stuff like that. But again, you're dealing with a glass enclosure with screen top. A lot of them come with backgrounds now, so that is made of foam that adds a little bit of insulation. So if you want to be super creative, you could get one of those as your template and then get one of those cans of great stuff and really like fill in the sidewalls so that at least it's insulated on the sides and the back. And then that will help keep some of your temps and your humidity in. And then again, you have screen top, so you'll have to figure out, you know, what you're going to do, how you're going to heat it, how are you going to provide, you know, the moisture in that enclosure. And that's 3 feet by 3 feet of airspace that you also have to now manage climate wise instead of like a smaller enclosure. And I think that managing the ambient climate is much harder for the average keeper to just comprehend. I think people get basking spots and they get thermal gradients, but the ambient stuff isn't really talked about. And that's where I think people go wrong because they're trying to match a light bulb with the enclosure for the species, but they're not taking into account, well, how warm do you keep the room that you're keeping that enclosure in? That's like a basic question I ask a lot of folks is like, okay, are you running your AC at 68 all the time? Or you let it fluctuate with the summer out here? Like, how does that, because that'll make a big difference, you know, 8-degree swing in your ambient living room, you know, or wherever you're putting this enclosure can make a big difference. So, and most people, just the concept of a thermostat is like so extra to some people.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
It's like crazy because all these big corporate companies, they make really basic, simple, and effective thermostats for under $70. And people are just like, nah.
Just look at those people and say, do you have a thermostat in your house? Do you like your thermostat?
Yeah. That's
no,
crazy.
we just turn it on. We turn the heat on and see how high it goes.
Just let it ride until we're sweating.
Yeah, you know, the as far as the thermostat goes, right? So I got a question for you. Let's see what you guys think of this. Like, so when you're setting up a thermostat, are you saying that they should have a thermostat as like a hotspot if they're using light?
Not like a heat bulb, because then you're going to get pulsing
just straight to that spot. Okay.
Yeah, because if I were to throw a thermostat under just like a day basking bulb, it would heat up and then it would shut off. And then it would come on and shut off. And eventually I'm going to pop that bulb.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what,
So thermostats are really good for heat pads, ceramic heat emitters,
heat panels,
radiant heat panels. That's kind of the basics. If you are going to use like a light bulb, a basking bulb, what you then need to understand is at what distance is this wattage of a bulb going to create what temperature on the surface, and how is that going to affect the animal? And is it, you know, certain bulbs are like the round orb spherical bulbs. They're meant to just sort of put out heat just in general everywhere. The ones that have more of like a compressed sort of shape, they usually have a reflector in the back and it's designed to concentrate its heat. That's why you see those basking bulbs tend to be shaped like that. And so you have to keep that in mind. Are you attempting to just heat the whole thing up a little bit more? Or are you trying to put a concentrated basking spot for your animal? So it really does depend on your animal's needs. So if we're talking about a carpet python that wants to bask, you know, let's say you've got a ceramic heater that's heating your whole enclosure and you're running that with a thermostat. You're just using that to hit your low end, right? So say you set your thermostat with a ceramic bulb to heat everything to like 80, but then you have a basking bulb that just like in this other area just gives that animal that boost depending on the distance between the bulb and whatever surface that animal's expected to bask on. That's going to affect what that surface temperature is and the wattage of the bulb, so on and so forth. So just there's a little more detail to comprehend when you're doing you know, different lighting. There's so many light bulb options. It's crazy.
It's very, very sort of, it can be overwhelming, you know, especially if you don't sort of have any clue or haven't been exposed to it, or, you know, or you're talking to somebody, not trying to trash people at PetSmart, but like, you know,
That's okay.
You know,
Go ahead.
you know what I'm about to say. They
It's
don't
complex.
necessarily know.
No.
If you're going to a shop like what Riley's at, obviously you're going to get that experience, which is why I would say, if you're going to buy a reptile and you should try to seek out one of those shops so that not only are you supporting a local, business, but you're also going to get experience for the most part. At least there's going to be somebody, every specialty reptile shop that I went to, there's always a guy, that I would interact with that would be like, a couple times there was a couple girls too that I would interact with, that they would be the person in the know. You know what I mean? They would know.
I mean, it's good to know, like, when I was at the vivarium, we all knew like which person on staff knew the most about what.
Yes.
It's like, oh, we got a lizard question, go to blah blah
Correct.
blah.
Sure.
That's just the best way to do it. You don't want somebody giving out bad advice when you have somebody that knows what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah,
I lean on my teammates for like the fish stuff or isopod stuff or whatever. And then, snake stuff, they kind of lean on me for. And so it kind of works out like that. But I mean, the other thing is the hardest part about all of this is remembering the perspective. So a potential buyer has a different perspective of keeping this animal than we do. They have a different perspective of the technology and the equipment and the status of the hobby and prices and what the animals really need and behavior and all this and that. So, it's not like getting a dog or a cat where all you have to do is make sure their stomach agrees with the food and you take it out and clean the litter box. And it doesn't matter if it's warm or cold, the animal is going to be with you, like that. Yeah. And this is very different. Reptiles you have to control their climate. They can't just be willy-nilly, whatever. And they do have a very specific diet and they do have very specific needs and all this stuff, even the most simplest of terms. And I think from a perspective of the average person out in the world, they don't know that. And that's why you see them bringing their ball python in around their neck in the middle of December outside. And you're just like,
not a great idea anytime of the year.
Stop it. Leave it at home. It's not a good idea just for disease control and cross-contamination purposes and sanitary reptile keeping, but and stress. That animal doesn't like being hung out the window of your car on the freeway.
Right. I saw when there was one just whack music festival that I played with my band, like in the Mojave Desert. It was a terrible time. Somebody brought a ball python. It was like one of those camping festivals, and they had a ball python. I was so disappointed. It was, But anyway, 100%. I mean,
it's just they're so complex, even in the simplest of ways. So, somebody, Alex Oliver made a good point about Focused Cube is making custom tops for those cages, so you can get inserts where it's all PVC and they have ports for the cords on the back and they have small ventilation slits and stuff, but otherwise it's a PVC lid instead of screen. And that is a great option. You just have to then take into account what you're doing. Like if you're doing light, then all of a sudden you can't just put it on top. You have to, make adjustments. So there's little things like that.
Right. I was going to put this one. This was a good tip, like floating corner shelves, like those Home Depot corner shelves. You could make those as like basking spots as you go up.
That's a great idea.
So that's pretty cool. And then Ryan had a pretty cool thing. And I did see this. I think it was on his Facebook page. Maybe he shared it in one of the group chats or something. But he cuts that plastic coffee container in half and sort of uses it on the perch. As like, I think Nick does this a lot. Ryan does this. I think there's quite a few people now that do it, where they take those hide boxes and they sort of put like the, like the rails in the top of the cage and then it sort of slides in there type of thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Seem to love that.
I think that's a great
being
idea.
Up, looking down, so that's a good one.
I think that's an awesome little invention.
Another question that Ryan sort of had was, would you do 3x3 by 18 or go 55 gallon? And I think he said that, one of those extra terrors was 300 plus.
Yeah, they're expensive.
A 55 gallon is $75. I guess you could go that way, but I mean, if you're going into a 4 foot at that point, I would just say buy a PVC enclosure. There's so many companies out there. Yeah. Or build a wooden cage or something.
Either
like that.
Build something out of wood and seal it nicely. Get a good quality, like birch or something really nice, shell out for the good wood, and then treat it appropriately. You just, you seal it with like a pond sealer. You do a couple layers of that, and then, it's moisture resistant, and then, you can drill some holes and put manufactured ventilation inserts in there. So you've got ventilation, you've got good wood that isn't going to warp and go crazy on you, so you can build something. Or just go buy PVC, because honestly, once you experience climate control with PVC, you'll realize how much glass lets heat and moisture out. It's not just screen, it's glass too. It's like the biggest, most frustrating thing for me to like explain.
yeah. It's one of the things that I've recently have thought about this, right? Because I've used radiant heat panels as hot spots in the past, right? To sort of give a thermal gradient. So like, right now, the cooler end of my diamond cage has to be cooler. And then like over on the other side, I have the radiant heat panel. But I think you can, I'm not saying that you can't use them, because I have for years. You can use it as a hotspot. But what I would do is, especially if you're doing like a naturalistic setup and say in your living room or something where the average temperature is like, say, 70 degrees or something like that, probably will be okay for a carpet, as long as they can heat up. They may even like that temperature better. But if you get much below that, it's almost like I would take that radiant heat panel and put it on a thermostat and put it for, say, like 75 degrees, 70 degrees, whatever, so that if it did drop below, that ambient air within the cage would still stay at that 70 degrees. And then you could have that basking spot. It's almost like you could sort of, I don't know, I'd have to experiment with this to sort of see how it would work, but you could have that basking spot on during the day and turn the radiant heat panel off. Right. And then at night, the basking spot would come off and that radiant heat panel would come on to sort of just give a nice, ambient heat throughout the night,
Right. But it'd be all too easy to rig something up with a basic timer for the light.
Sure. Yeah.
And heck, you could even set it so the radiant heat panel with the thermostat, just because of how it runs, just kind of manually turns itself off while that basking light's on. Just have it ramp up and down, and then and then use it to keep the low end from getting too cold, and use it to manage that, let the climate fluctuate a little bit, and then have that basking spot. I've spent more time recently learning myself and explaining to customers about different light bulbs, because one, the availability in the shop kind of ebbs and flows as a result of COVID supply chain. So I've been forced to sort of learn, maybe 30 different light bulbs and their different applications on the fly, and improvise when something's not available with something else. And there's a lot out there, but some of those bulbs out there are fantastic with what they can put out as far as heat and UV in certain ranges, and it's only getting better. Yeah. So you can really use just one, you can, depending on how big the enclosure is, you could just set up the Exoterra Solar Glow, or these Arcadia, the deep heat projectors, those.
Got a couple of those.
Yeah, those people are really singing praises of Arcadia, and they have been for a while, but like they keep knocking out of the park with these great products. Yeah, the deep heat projectors, it's a different kind of heat. I think it works better for reptiles, and it's lower wattage than what you need to achieve the basking temperatures if you were to just use, say, a light bulb. So it's a little bit more efficient on your energy bill.
Right.
Yeah, it was. So what was odd to me, right, is that it's not really a light, right? Yeah. So I thought they didn't work. Like, I screwed it in. I didn't realize that it wasn't like that, right?
Yeah, it's a wavelength.
Yes. Yeah. Which is, so like, I I had these for the Ackies, right? Because Nipper was telling me about these deep heat projectors, and he swears by them and says that he's seen a difference in his reptiles basking and such. And I was like, okay, let me give them a try and see what it's all about, right? So I get it, and I screw it in, and they're not that cheap, right? They're not the cheapest bulb, but I screw it in and I turn it on, and it doesn't work. So then I'm like, is it the, I'm changing out the actual the light fixture. I go and try a different one. I'm like, oh my God, I just spent like, I don't know what they were, like $30 or something on this light, and it doesn't work. So I had got 2 of them. So I tried the other one, and it was the same thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, something's not right here. Like, funny. What am I doing, man?
That's funny.
And I said, let me turn it on. Maybe it's got to warm up or something, because I know at work, like certain bulbs that we have in the ceiling or stuff, if they blow out and then they if we had a power surge or something like that,
safety ballast in them.
Right. They have to sort of like warm back up and come back on. So I'm like, all right, let me leave it alone. So I come back and it's hot, but there's no light. I'm just like, oh, okay. So
light bulb.
If you're going to do something like this, you want to make sure that you sort of have something that that they can get to. So
those are, and that's a good bulb to use with a thermostat, because it doesn't put out light, so you're not going to worry about blowing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and again, this is another one of those things that's going to be completely dependent to where you are and like what your environment is, right? Because like for me, top cage behind me, there's just one ceramic in there, and my conditions are such that thing on a thermostat gives me a perfect gradient,
right.
Hot spot right under it, my cold side doesn't get too cold, it's all good. So
that's why the ambient's important,
right? Yeah, exactly. It's going to influence how your setup is going to function, no matter what. Like,
right,
the purpose of any of the various heating elements that we could use here is to fight whatever your ambient is, right? So the extent that it has to do that is going to just depend on where you're at. And you really just have to keep a finger on the pulse with it, because like when I put UVB in with the false water cobra, that's great, and I'm glad I did that, but that UVB bulb also gives off heat. And
a little bit of warmth just from the electric current going, right?
More than I thought it would. So now I know on actual hot days, I'm going to have to turn that thing off. It's just going to be too warm. And that's, something that you just kind of learn by doing, if you will,
These LED lights get warm throughout the day, and the snakes like to hug them. So that's why the snakes are drawn to climbing up and making me upset.
And you would wonder, like, if you have a hot spot, right? Like, if you have a hot spot, why would they be drawn to that? If you know what I mean? Like, what is different about that? Is it just something different? Is it gives off a different kind of heat?
Yeah. I wonder if maybe it's attractive because it's warm and elevated.
Could be. Yeah, that's a good point.
Semi-arboreal.
One of the things I learned about Ackies, or learned about lighting and heat spots and all that when you're using a light, right? You can have a very low wattage bulb, and if you have that real close to the hot spot, you're going to get a hot spot that, like, so you could sort of play with the height of wherever that basking area is, whether you stack cork bark up or whatever, you can really get a nice, and you can even get a gradient within the stack, right? I mean, what's that? Reed stacks?
Reed stacks.
Do it?
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
So like, they could get in. So I've noticed with the Ackies, with what I have going on, and I know obviously we're talking carpets, but it's the same thing, sort of. They can kind of like climb into those cracks. And maybe this crack is 85 degrees, this crack is 95 degrees, this crack is 107 degrees, and right out there on the basking spot is 150 degrees.
Yep. It's just
Don't
a vertical
for a carpet.
Just a vertical thermal gradient instead of a horizontal one on a cage.
Right.
Yeah. It's just different. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, you could utilize the same technology for carpets. If you want to achieve your heat source via overhead basking, you could do the same thing. Just don't go for 150. Like
Yeah.
So
I would say, depending on the carpet and depending on that ambient, and like, the sort of like, I would say probably for a hot spot, you're looking at anywhere from 85 to 90 degrees, depending on like, so for diamond pythons, I'm giving a warmer hot spot, but for a shorter amount of time.
Yeah,
and
the concept is they'll use it for as long as they need and then go
move away.
Yeah.
Right. And they kind of moving back and forth throughout the day, depending on, you know, what's going on with the ambient. Now, in my other snake room, I think you do that. I don't know if you do this, Lucas, but I know you do it, Riley, where I heat the room. So the ambient is, so you don't do that.
I do not. Okay. No,
because he has to live in it and sleep in it.
Yeah. Well, for one, it's my room, and
that's why he's the intern and I'm the senior intern.
Yeah. Okay. But also, I don't have heat, so even if I wanted to, I'd have to buy something. And you know, Bay Area, pretty mild climate. Really, I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all good.
But so that's I was just thinking about that. Like it's different if I'm putting an animal inside a reptile room versus putting it out in the living room. And it's the same for a keeper if they're using their bedroom or a designated room for animals, or it's just one off in the house somewhere. You know, that definitely dictates the equipment they use to achieve their climate goals.
Right.
But yeah, if you're running it in a room like I am, where I have the thermostat controlling the heater and I'm heating an ambient minimum, then my enclosure heating elements don't have to work quite as hard to heat that same set point, because the room is also participating in that goal. That's the difference, as opposed to having a living room, 40 gallon with a bearded dragon sort of thing, and heating that appropriately.
Right.
So
I will say too, I mean, knowing that I'm not able to provide a super warm overall environment, like that's been the case ever since I started working with reptiles. Like, it's actually pretty amazing how consistently I've lived places with no heat. It's weird. But like I've almost picked species that are okay with that on purpose, right? Like the Bredls don't care, the Asphodeites don't care. I don't really have anything that is going to have a rough time with cold temperatures, which is great. The falsies are the closest to it, and they're pretty hardy too. So
yeah, I'm kind of lucky where I have the ability to have two separate spots, right? So like all the stuff that you're talking about is sort of like Casey Cannon's approach, right? He sort of has geared his collection to be towards those, Bredli, type of snakes that can withstand those colder temperatures. Diamond pythons, inlands probably fall into that.
Totally.
Boland's pythons, things like that.
I'll take two.
Yeah. They could sort of withstand those colder ambient temperatures, and almost, I would dare to say want those colder ambient temperatures, especially diamond pythons. And as long as you're so to compensate for that, I don't know how you do it, to compensate for that, like I was saying, my hot spots in here are like anywhere from 87 to 90 degrees, right? If you go into my other snake room where I'm heating the room to say 78 to 80 degrees, the ambient temperature in the room is just that. My hot spots are going to be maybe 85, 86, at the top,
Right.
So, and obviously they're different. It will be interesting when I move into that room and start redoing the cages and stuff in there, how it's going to affect things, and like experiment with, hot spots and ambient and all these things that we're talking about. It's sort of like you have to have a game plan and sort of think it out. And I think a lot of times when you sort of think you have it figured out, you sort of go into it and then you're sort of like, oh, well, this didn't work. So it's back to the drawing board,
all the time.
Yeah.
Gotta love working with animals, keeping you guessing.
Yeah. I mean, the moment you think you have it right and you stop checking is when something's going to go wrong, It's just the way of things.
Yeah. 100%. So like even the design of the cage, I'm trying to figure out for these diamonds, like how do I give them UV basking spots and, hot spots? Do I sort of like put some hot spots on, like use heat cable or something and put it on, like make a ledge with some heat cable and sort of like do something like that. And then have another one where it's a hotter, basking spot if I'm going with height, with these different sort of like what they were talking about with the Home Depot, like corner ledges or whatever, doing something like that and having that be a ledge where it's a warm ledge and it's on a thermostat and all. So
if it were me, I would use one of the mercury vapor heat and UV bulbs that we basically sell for lizards and basking spots, like something I would sell to somebody for a bearded dragon, because then it's heat and UV, and you can have it on a timer, so it goes on for like 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon, something like that, and then it's just off. And for an animal where you want it to experience the ambient lows for most of the time, but then have access to periodic basking, like that's how I would do it. And then when it goes to bask, it's also getting the UV. Now you could also, if you want to observe if there's particular basking for just UV, then you get separate
that's what I was going to ask
and,
you.
Yeah, so then you can get just a UV bulb and just a heat bulb and run them at separate times and see if the animal prefers one or has behaviors towards one and the other at different times or whatever. So yeah, you could absolutely get separate UV and separate heat bulbs for that.
Yeah, I sort of have this vision in my head of like this big tree trunk going up side of this cage and like this corner where it kind of like, and like having these little pockets where I can put, ferns and stuff like that to give like foliage over across the top to where it can sort of like get into these little spots where it can escape heat or, sort of like what we were talking about with the reed stack, like that kind of idea. But you using plants and, cork bark or stuff like that so that it can sort of like, pick and choose where it wants to go. But I never thought about the UV and the heat because I always thought that you sort of had to keep them separate because if it wanted to bask in the UV, it wouldn't be able to without getting the heat as well,
Yeah, no, you could do either way. It really depends on what your goal is. Like if you just want to have one bulb and one hot spot and one sort of thing and just boom, you can do that. If you want to light the cage with UV, you can do that. But then, yeah, the disadvantage of doing it that way is you just don't know if the animal's showing behavioral preference towards UV or not.
Right.
When it's all combined or always present.
So would you recommend also to have light on top of that as well? Like UV spot, a basking spot, and then like say some LEDs or something in the cage as well?
Well, yeah.
And again, we're just talking like, this is like, sky's the limit type of, making the perfect enclosure.
Yeah. If you want to do live plants, an LED will help those live plants stay alive, and LEDs aren't expensive. So if you want to be able to provide the photo period and light in the enclosure through artificial lighting, LEDs is the way I would go. You can get LEDs for plant growth as well, and you can set them however you want and set it all on timers. And then you can control UV and heat separately in their own fixtures if you'd like to do that. So, yeah, if you really want to go balls to the wall and like do it all out and like be able to tell everything that's going on, I would run a strip of LED in the top, so it can light up the enclosure and provide some UVA for your plants. And then I would have, some sort of shelf or corner pocket or whatever where it's all at. And then, yeah, perfect. So the Arcadia LED bars, the Jungle Dawn bars, those are excellent.
Those. I'm not using it, but I have one.
Those are great. Those are really good for light, for plant growth. So you could use that and just light up the cage with that. Have that for your ambient photo period. Just set that on a timer so it like goes on in the morning, comes off in the evening, and then have a second timer for a basking spot, and then a third timer for a UV bulb if you want to do, those separate and controlled.
Right.
And they make, you can either get individual fixtures for each, or you can get a combo fixture and just put it over one area so that they know like this is the basking platform and they use it, or you can have it so that like the UV's on that side and the the heat bulbs over on that side, and you just have this large basking area. It really depends on what you're trying to discern in your animal's behavior, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
So as usual, the sky's the limit, and there's no answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, okay, so if it were me and I was set either building or buying a cage, doesn't matter, just doing something 3x3, whatever, I would have some sort of vertical, like 3 vertical platforms, or sections on a tree root or something like that, or a fake branch. Have a basking lamp overhead so the animal has different levels it can choose at which to bask, and then I would have that come on first wave of the early morning or late morning, early afternoon, and then do a late afternoon one, and then have UV come on kind of the middle of the day, and see when the animal decides to go up to those basking areas, or if it goes or moves at all, and then just observe it, like document, like, okay, when the heat bulb came on, the snake went up closer to it, or when the UV bulb came on, the snake, went and basked under it for 10 minutes and then retreated down to the floor, and just take anecdotal data and, just watch the animal over the course of several months and just record everything. And eventually patterns and behaviors will emerge in your record keeping. And then you can kind of tinker with it over time. This is like a long process, of course, and you can dial it in, like, okay, this is what my animal wants to do.
Right.
Like if you see the animal coming out 10 minutes before the lights always come on, that animal's kind of figured it out and it's got a pattern of behavior. It's like, okay, it basks and it always comes on at this time. And so it's always waiting for it. And so you can really tell what your animal wants as it learns what you're providing it, and then asks for it, so to speak,
Right. Or at least anticipates it,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I was even thinking about, I don't know if he wants me to say his name, so I'm not going to say his name, but at Carpet Fest, you met him, Riley, here. There was a gentleman that we talked to. I know he's kind of secretive, and people that know him will know what I'm talking about, as a whole bunch of mulch just falls down in my closet. Anyway, he was saying about how he was trying to design a green tree cage. You know who I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And he was basically saying about how he took these computer fans and he sort of put it to where it was constantly, like, not constantly, every so often it would sort of circulate the old air out and bring new air in. So it was constantly getting this, fresh air into the cage, which helped with humidity on a humidity cycle, right? I forget exactly how he did it 100%, like where he gauged to where it would, turn on or whatever. But I think it was linked to the humidity, because part of the struggle with some of Morelia is the fact of giving them humidity, but not too much to where, mold and respiratory, all these things, and scale rot and all things that can happen from too wet environments. So he was sort of like, getting that air coming through constantly, which, when I talk to Keith, he swears that ventilation is one of the things that people overlook all the time, and so important, especially, thinking about racks and some of these cages where it's like a couple slits in the kit, you know what I mean? So like thinking about that and trying to design something that sort of, takes that into mind is something that I'm also sort of looking at, like how I could exchange the air in the cage. I think that I wouldn't, for me, I'm not interested in bioactive. To me, I'll clean the snake shit. I have no problem with that. You know what I mean? But personally, to me, the only reason why I would like naturalistic plants over, say, artificial plants would be, I think that would help with the air inside the cage and the humidity inside the cage, so
absolutely.
But you got to be careful and pick the right plants, because pythons, big carpets can
you need
make
something
a mess of shit real quick.
You need something that's a little durable. I mean, pothos kind of always ends up being the default go-to because it's hardy. I mean, it survives. There's other options out there, of course, but there's an advantage to doing a bigger enclosure. Then you have more options. You could literally go get a small tree and put it in a big enclosure,
Yeah,
like a ficus. You could throw a damn ficus in a big
How
enough
cool
enclosure.
would that be?
So you could really open some doors going big like that and not have any issues. But yeah, I think the ventilation thing is a big deal. I always, solder holes in tubs, no matter how much gap there is. I still want more airflow, a room fan, open windows. I'm very cognizant of the air circulation. I think that, like you said, it's so overlooked. And it's very important, especially in high humid species. That's a challenge because ventilation and humidity sort of don't work together. Like, you can't have one and the other, or like it seems that way anyway. So people freak out about it in rainbow boa world all the time. They're like, they have to be 99% humidity all the time, and oh my God. And it's just like that. If it was truly 99% humidity all the time, you'd have bacteria growing, you'd have mold growing, especially without good ventilation, especially because it's a closed system. You got to remember, this is all a closed system. In the wild, when it's 99% humidity, it's because there's freaking rain and it's a huge rainforest. It's a jungle, and it's like, it doesn't matter how open it is. There's so much water in it, but that's got the ventilation, and it's hard to replicate that in a small enclosure. So with my adult rainbows, like, I just make sure they shed well, and that's how I know I'm doing it okay. I'm not constantly spraying. I'm not even measuring the humidity in there. It's just humid.
Can you tell with them, like, I know it's short tails when they're humidity or like water is off. They sort of like their scales get like dimply or something. Do rainbows do the same type of thing? To where you can sort of visually see that the humidity's off? Okay.
Do you see it in the eyes as well? I've definitely seen that with like sunken eyeballs.
That's the thing with commercially available products like we're talking about now. Most people think they're limited to a light bulb, a glass tank, and aspen bedding. And with species like rainbow boas, I see it all the time. And I got into it with some guy on Facebook. He posted a photo of his baby rainbow in a glass tank with a red light, and the thing, I could see it from like this microscopic little baby over here. I could see how dehydrated this thing was, and everything about it was bad. And I was like, "Oof, that thing needs a soak, man. Needs some humidity in there. Throw that thing in a tub." And he like deleted all my comments. He's like, my family's going to think I don't know what I'm doing if they see that. I'm like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. He's like, I just convinced them. I was like, okay, my bad. But like, you can see it in a rainbow when they're dehydrated. You can see it. They get wrinkly. Their neck gets all foldy. Their eyes get all dimply. And they just 100%. Look like somebody stuck them under a blow dryer, and they just all like stuck out in the desert. And that's it's real bad.
It's not good.
Yeah, not good.
So in my main room, what I do is I have a cycle to where I turn. So this will go to Alex's question about, do you guys shut off heat at night or leave it on all the time? Me personally, I don't understand when naturalistic keepers don't follow nature, right? And
sun go down.
Yes, sun goes down.
Mean turn the lights off?
The big fireball in the sky turns off.
Go down.
12 hours. So, like, I turn off all the heat at night. Everything. I don't have any heat on at night. No ambient temp, and I do this all year long. Now, I'm not. Make sure you know the temperatures in your room. So if your room goes down to like 40 degrees at night,
don't do that.
Right. But my ambient stays in the 70s, which is totally fine, which again, just like blew my mind about the idea of temperatures when it comes to pythons and particularly carpets, because to me, taking it to 70 degrees was how you bred them because they were cold. But like when you're in Australia and it's 70 degrees and they're not breeding, and you're like, huh, okay, all right, maybe I got this all wrong. Maybe it's not temperature that really kicks them into breeding. Maybe it's something else. But so all the heat, lights, everything turns off at night, and then I turn a humidifier on. So it it takes, there's still heat throughout the room because I have all the heat spots and everything. So, that ambient stays for a while. But once that humidity kicks on, it still actually feels kind of warm in the room, but it's in the 70s. It feels like it's warm, but it's really not. It's just very humid. So,
right. Yeah.
And that's, humidity is at night. Like the humidity goes up when the sun goes down, So I don't know.
I've been running my humidifier in the room at night a lot lately. Yeah. If I run it during the day with the heat in here, it doesn't have the same effect. It just makes things wet and the floor gets wet, whatever. But if I run it at night, when I come in the morning, the little thermometer that's on that mini incubator over there, it'll show that it's like, a nice spike at night, and it's great. And that's why I've been getting perfect sheds in the adult rainbows, even with the large airspace and stuff. So
nice.
And heating the room, I'm not heating the room like 80 degrees. Like, I'm not doing the Terry Phillip method, because I am also running hot spots on animals. I'm heating the room to a range of 74 to 76, just trying to keep the cold end off right now, but keeping it low enough where everybody can still get their thermal gradient based on the species I have. And I'll probably turn that up a little bit in the next couple of weeks, but ultimately, you have to pay attention to all of that, all those variables, all those factors.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's important just to keep checking those things, right? We
always.
all think, just
always.
I think I've talked to people where they have this idea that like they set it, and even I've been guilty of this in the past, where you sort of set it and forget it. It's like, oh, the thermostat says 85, so it must be 85, and then like you check it, and you're like, see, this to me is like paying attention to your snake. How it happened to me in the early days was I set it to like 85, let's say, and I came home and like all the snakes are on the, like, smashed up against the front of the enclosure, and I'm like, huh, that seems odd that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know what I mean, are all like right there. And then you look at the hot spot and it's like 95 degrees, so it's like, oh shit, that's not good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I mean, sometimes you really even have to just be making micro adjustments, like I know right now it's gonna be a little heat wave for like 3 or 4 days where I'm at. Probably you too, Riley. Like, it's gonna be 80 degrees here, and last week we were lucky to get to like 60s. The 60s. So, I'm gonna have to bump everything up to keep my temperatures where I want, because my ambient's gonna be way hotter. And obviously I don't have a heater. I don't have AC either. So I have to be paying attention and adjusting accordingly. Yeah.
Every season you should be adjusting 4 times a year. Just adjust, just check it all, keep temp guns. If you're running light bulbs, obviously light bulbs go out, so you got to replace those. Those damn UV meters are so expensive. So like, if you're, trying to be diligent about your UV bulbs, just replace them every 6 months to a year.
6 months,
yeah. The manufacturers always say they're good for 6 months, but even then, I can tell you from experience that you can pull a brand new Zoom Ed, Power Sun bulb out, pull like 4 of them out, and they all behave differently right out of the box, and they take a nosedive after like the second month in their UV output. So if you're trying to achieve high amounts of UV output, but your bulb is more than a foot away, after about 2 months, you're going to have a nosedive in that UV output.
Right.
So,
one of the book, I'm going to grab a book real quick.
Ooh, books.
There he goes again. We need a little song, and we can hit a button every time Eric goes for a walk.
Oh yeah, we should. Like a little theme song, like a Peter Griffin theme song.
You said Peter Griffin, but yeah.
Well, that's just what I think of.
What the hell, Peter Griffin?
I'm just thinking of like the show that gives me the great example of the song.
Ouch.
So these books are good all in themselves, right? Again, that's not the one, but this series of books, but these two in particular, that one.
Fire.
Reptile Keeping, Fire the Sun. Its
Right.
use and replication within Reptile Keeping. Interesting.
That's very
Right.
cool.
Part 1.
Yeah. Yeah. So it just talks about like, you know, it just talks about like the different aspects of heating, sun, you know, just UV, all these different things, you know, how reptiles utilize it. You know, it's got like different graphs and stuff in there and stuff. It's really
Love
good
graphs.
book. Yeah, right. You know, things like that. I think it just gives you an understanding. If you're trying to create nature in a box, you should sort of understand nature, you know, and how it works. So,
Well said.
Yeah, lighting is a whole thing. It's a whole science, and even the best UVB bulbs out there don't even compare to actual sunlight.
No.
And then you got to think about the natural history of the animal and how they behave and what they're exposed to, and then how their environment plays a role. Like if you're talking about an animal that's out in the desert getting full spectrum broad sun on a rock without anything
Just
blocking sun,
bombarded,
tons of UV of all spectrum, tons of heat. Whereas a poison dart frog under dense canopy in the rainforest of Costa Rica gets zero light. Like not even any light. Like the only light it sees is refracting coming through like a really far off canopy, and it's not getting any UV rays.
100%.
But they survive. They're getting whatever necessary vitamins their skeletal structure needs elsewhere. So your approach for keeping a dart frog compared to a desert tortoise, obviously completely different, but they're still reptile and amphibian ectotherms that have, you know, these needs. And so you have to understand so much about lighting when you're doing that. And and then as I'm saying that, I circle back around to rack keeping and how lighting isn't really a thing in racks yet. I think it will be in time, because racks aren't going anywhere. People using racks isn't going anywhere. So what's got to give? Well, the technology is going to give. Eventually, it's going to give, and eventually there will be something to accommodate rack keeping.
For sure. So
we'll see what that ends up being. But I think the reptile hobby is done denying that lighting is important. I think lizard keepers have been saying it forever. I think, you know, saltwater fish and reef keepers have been, you know, obviously in tune with that. Plant people are in tune with that. And so, I mean, it's just silly to suggest otherwise. Like everything that is alive is evolved to, you know, to the sun in their habitat. You know, it's to some degree, right? It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I would think that I would be surprised to learn if maybe some of the problems that we have with snakes, pythons, carpets, whatever you want to say, in captivity stem from our approach of keeping it alive as opposed to, you know, giving it these additional things that they don't need to survive. But, you know, I think about if you were lost in the woods, right? You know, and you have nothing but, you know, Cliff Bars, you're going to eat the Cliff Bars and then you'll survive. But like, you're probably going to look like shit by the time you get out. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to take a toll on certain things and it may affect your health overall. Like you're going to be alive, but like, you know,
I hate Cliff Bars.
Yeah, I know. I picked the
so gross.
Yeah. But
it's that animal welfare piece. Like survival shouldn't be the benchmark.
Right. Surviving versus thriving.
That's the minimum. Yeah.
So I think we're all sort of acknowledging that shift.
Yeah. So let me ask this. You guys have dealt with the public, for lack of a better word, beginner reptile person, you know, like, have you seen a shift in that? Have you seen them come in from the base with this, better understanding of this stuff? It seems like it's more snake part of the hobby than anything else. Have you seen that shift?
I see a lot more beginners coming in with the impression that UVB and bioactive and big full displays are necessary across the board.
Okay.
Sometimes people have a misunderstanding of what that appropriate size for the species is, but they all seem to think that everything
bigger is better.
Yeah, most, the only thing is people are limited by is their wallet and space. But when that's not a limitation, everybody, kind of has it in their head that like, well, I should set it up and give it room, give it light. It needs this. Like what? The racks are still foreign to a lot of beginners. The whole concept of keeping things sterile and in these types of systems is still, people are still just discovering it when they're still beginners, because they don't see that in reptile shops. We're not selling racks in the reptile shop, so
sure.
Yeah.
It really wouldn't be for that kind of keeper, right?
Right.
Right.
Racks.
And it's a little hard for me to speak on that because I don't think I was around a reptile shop environment enough to like see an evolution, but at least during my time, like it was really a mixed bag. I'd have folks just like how Riley's describing, but then there would also be plenty of people that, were trying to be the next big rack ball python breeder,
Oh, of course.
Sure.
So it was a mixed bag, but there were definitely a lot of people that seemed to want to offer a more naturalistic approach, which, maybe that is an evolution just in itself. Yeah.
I still think there's challenges with certain species that, like, short tails always come to mind for me all the time. Like, I think of, I have to refer back to Keith and that, and like, those guys have tried different ways to keep these things, and like, they seem to do the best in this sort of setup where it's a rack with a big hide where they can sort of get into that's humid, and like those, to me, more so than any other python, they are a sit and wait ambush predator.
Yeah.
I mean, more so than right, exactly. So like they're the type of species that's just going to like sit under some palm fronds until something comes past it, and then they're going to take a shot at it, as opposed to a carpet where I could say, they're probably moving a lot more than something like a short tail. So knowing your species is important too,
Yeah, if you're going to set up a short tail in a naturalistic enclosure, just get any size enclosure that it fits in, throw some dirt in there, throw a bowl of water, and put a palm frond on top of your snake, and you're done.
You're done.
That's it. That's all it wants.
And for those in particular, I say this too, they are very sensitive to temperature, whereas if you keep them right, you have this window, and if you step out of that window at all, you're going to screw them up.
Which is worth saying, know how your room behaves before you dive into a species like that, because if you have to run exceptional amounts of heat just to do that, your margin of error is very slim. You go too high, you got an angry animal. If you have a power outage, you have a dead animal. If you go too cold, you have a sick animal. And they're a species that like you can be successful giving them a basking spot, but it sounds like they do best just kind of keeping them at a steady ambient.
Yes.
Yeah, just rock them at like 82, 83, keep them humid, and they're good.
Yeah, they're not really arboreal. I know like there's been pictures of ball pythons in trees and stuff like that to where you could say like they go up, but I have never seen, have you? A picture of a short tail in a tree?
No. I think physics would argue with that one.
Yeah, they're heavy.
Well, and I think this is sometimes where this whole cage versus rack debate always kind of gets screwed up, because you could be arguing with somebody that keeps short tails and you're keeping Amazon tree boas.
Sure.
And obviously Amazon tree boas are going to do spectacular in a natural setup with, even bioactive or anything like that. Whereas that short tail, like and not to mention the fact, here's the other thing, like when somebody's keeping bioactive for a short tail, right? Like they don't realize what do you think happens when that snake takes a shit? Like,
oh my God.
Yo,
it's gonna
man.
flood.
Yes.
Those bugs are gonna
Game
be
over.
swimming in puddles of pee.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my
100%.
gosh. They're not gonna be able to handle that.
Correct.
Mm.
So
No.
that's why, there's certain parts of the community that sort of were like, no. And like,
Yeah.
I think like we just want everything to be either A or B.
Well, and
it's not that simple.
The problem with the beginners is they think inside that rigid mindset. They think that it has to be one or the other. They haven't come to the realization in their keeping journey that there's a million colors of crayons in the box. There's like a lot you can do. And then, anything that's the newest fad, the newest trend is what is grabbed. And right now it's bioactive. And Lucas and I were on the Hurt Panel forum last week. And one of the questions that was asked of us that everybody kind of went around was like, what do you think is the most overrated thing in reptiles right now? And was it you that said bioactive, Lucas, or was it Summer?
I think Summer said it, but my story with bioactive. I agree.
Yeah. So her answer was that bioactive keeping is the most overrated part of reptiles right now. And not that it's wrong or bad or doesn't have its place. Like it certainly has its place. For me, I think it's fantastic for frogs, small geckos,
100%.
Things like that. Other than that, I don't care. I'm not going to put in any effort into it because I've seen it be a waste and not successful with anything bigger than that. And so it has its place, but this whole persecution of anybody who doesn't keep their animals bioactive needs to stop. Like if there's any newcomers listening to this, bioactive is okay. We're not trashing it, but what you need to understand is it has its application. It has its lane. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of reptiles and amphibians that will not accommodate that style of keeping because there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of those species out there. So there is no such thing as a one size fits all in husbandry for anything ever, period. The rigidity is like, it's just putting your brain in a box, like take the walls down and open up and learn it all,
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with somebody keeping on paper. Find out why they're doing that, find out why they keep that way.
Yes. Yeah, there could be a reason, like I know when I was coming up in the hobby, like there were so many different experiments with different types of substrate, for a while, cypress mulch was big. Then it sort of was aspen was sort of something, but they sort of all had their pros and cons. And I think it's sort of trying to figure out like, where you can, what you're trying to do. And more importantly, what species are you working with? Because I think like when we apply these general terms to everything, you just can't do it that way because there's just within carpet pythons alone, you cannot keep a diamond python like you keep a Darwin carpet. You just, you're going to kill it. You just can't, it'll survive for a while, but long term, it's just not going to work, so you have to decide what you want to do and where you want to go, and then sort of, what species you want to work with and try, I can't say how much of, how important it is to know the natural history of whatever species you're working with, like you could keep, so like say, I know like for myself, when you're keeping a large amount of animals, right, you're trying to sort of, keep it as clean as you can. And I think that the advantage to paper is that it's an advantage in some ways and a disadvantage in other ways. It's like you're taking that whole substrate out and cleaning the whole enclosure every time.
Right. There's pros and cons to it, but your goal is the health of your animals in that method, and your cost is the aesthetic by using paper. This is a good comment that sort of encapsulate sort of what we're discussing here and the challenges overall. Aurora Exotic says the young people coming into this grew up with the internet. That's very true. The new generation, they have this tool that they've never known a life without of, and they expect a straight, this is how sort of answer. The nuance and choices seem difficult for many of them, and I couldn't agree with that more. When you've grown up thinking that you can just quickly get the answers in your pocket at any given moment, you know, they haven't gone through the experiences that we have, having to learn by trial and error, or, you know, keeping in fish tanks because an industry didn't exist yet, sort of thing. Like they haven't learned that, and so they don't have the social intellectual skills within the reptile hobby to figure it out for themselves, because nobody slapped them across the face and said, you don't understand because you don't know what you don't know yet. You have to shed all of that like security in what you know, and completely just, I don't know anything. I'm naive. Can somebody show me this? And then you just got to go with it. You have to admit your naivety and ignorance, and it's okay, and just learn it.
You know, I had a thought as you were saying that, and, you know, that explains, like, say, younger people coming into the hobby. But I'm going to give a perspective for older people that are in the hobby, like myself, right? In the early years, to your point, right? We didn't have Zoom Ed, Arcadia, you know, there was none of that. Mm-hmm. So you're almost forced to first, there's no books, you know what I mean? Like there's a few books that are, but not to the level of what is today. There's no internet. There's none of that stuff. So you're forced to sort of look at the natural history of an animal, and you have like, and I think this is where it frustrates older keepers, is that they're focused on that natural history aspect of it, of understanding how the animal works, not following baking a cake recipe, right? So like you could keep an animal, say on the East Coast one way, and then like when you move out to the West Coast, you're going to keep it totally different and have to adjust those things. Well, if you're, you know, on the East Coast and you're just used to following a formula, you're going to go out there and you're going to fail, and you're going to, you know, then you're going to say that, you know, you're going to be pissed off but the problem is you didn't take the time to learn that natural history of the animal and sort of be able to look at the animal and make little, like we were talking about just a couple minutes ago, making these minor adjustments based off of what you're seeing, you know, student of the serpent type of deal, you know, trying to figure out like, oh, wait, why is it pushed against the front? And then you go and you look, oh, it's too hot. You know, I mean, I remember just from the carpet point of view, and I've said this a million times on NPR, I remember when I first came into carpet pythons, it was 95-degree hotspot, 85-degree ambient. That was the cookie cutter carpet python. If you looked in a book, online, all these this is what they did, right? So without even taking into account things like where that person was from, where are they keeping it? You know, Stan Cheris got a lot of shit because of how he kept diamond pythons. But after talking to Rob explained to me, like, listen, yeah, he kept them out in his garage in the wintertime, but it's not like you keeping a diamond python out in your garage during the wintertime because of where they're from. Like the temperature, they're high, closer to the sun. So Rob will get like a foot of snow, and then like by the afternoon, it's like gone. You know, whereas like here, we're going to see it. Doesn't matter if the next couple of days it's 60 degrees out every day. You're going to have snow around for a while because it's just not going to melt as fast as if it's, you know, you're closer to the sun. So like, you know, I think yeah, there goes that drop in nature again, right? But I think like, you know, I think that you have to sort of take into account that and like understand that like they didn't get here just by chance. Like they're not keeping the species this way just because, you know. Now I will give pushback to some keepers that have been keeping for a while that you know, Owen would always say this to me and it would just boil my blood because I would be like, no, no, what are you doing? He'd be like, if it's not fixed, then don't, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Yeah, but we're trying to make it better.
Right.
You know what I mean? Trying to take it ahead the next step. And I think that a lot of people
people don't seem to like for some reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Progression is
so
scary.
Dumb.
Correct. Yeah. Because now you're challenging what this worked for me forever. Now I'm going to have to change everything up and do everything different, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. You know, I mean, the horse and carriage worked for a while too. I think it was okay to move on.
Yeah. I think Tesla's a little bit better, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They're nice.
Yeah.
That's a good point though. No, that's a really good point.
100%. Yeah. It's
So,
interesting.
Yeah. I wonder what our life is going to be like in 10, 15, 20 years, you know, looking back on this conversation. Like, remember when we kept snakes without UVB? Remember when we didn't, you know, remember when I had that snake break her back, laying her eggs because we thought that we knew everything and keeping, and, you know, like, and it'll be some like real simple deficiency, like who knows, but I always think about that. By the way, I got some of that Da Vinci Boa's supplement in.
Yeah.
I got the small bottle because I'm poor.
Okay.
I really they have 4 sizes, but it's expensive. So the small bottle, I don't have it in the room with me. It's like that big. It's like a cough syrup size bottle or whatever. It's like $50. And you use 1 ml per kilo. So, you know, I'll probably go through it all in 2 months. And the idea is you use it with your breeders. Lucas, what are you doing over there? Drinking your own pee or something?
Yeah,
what do you mean?
I know,
It's
like,
water.
You're like giggling and like chugging water.
I was laughing at Ryan Cox. Damn, Lucas. Yeah.
No.
Sorry, I didn't mean to distract.
Oh, I was like, what am I missing here?
I was wondering why he was saying "damn Lucas." I was like, did I fall asleep?
I thought it was the horse comment.
I
don't know. Now we're off the rails. I've messed it up.
Like, did this old guy just kind of doze off for a second? Like, oh wait.
Sorry.
I don't even remember what I was saying.
Oh no.
Da Vinci Boa.
Oh yeah. So I got the supplement. So I'm gonna try that out. I think I'm gonna start giving that out to breeders after laying and start getting that into their rotation. But I'm just kind of curious about the supplementation and trying to see how it works. And it's just an oral supplement. So
what's it supposed to do?
Well, it's got a lot of vitamins in it, a lot of vitamin D, C, B, different enzymes and things. And I watched a video that he put out on it in January. And basically, a lot of his clients that buy it, a lot of customers are ball python breeders, boa breeders, lizard breeders, and they use it to help just keep their animals healthy that are breeding. It helps them just stay healthy, keeps their gut flora going so they can put weight back on. He just has a lot of anecdotal evidence as to why it's beneficial for breeders to have on. And he says, like, you know, you give it to them once a month, basically, and you do it by weight. So it's supposed to be a good supplement to help with, you know, vitality before, during, and after breeding. So I figured it can't hurt, you know. I'd like to see how it helps, if at all, with the citrus tiger after her maternal incubation.
Congrats on that clutch, by the way.
Thanks, man. Awesome. She's right there. She's right behind me, right there in that little. She's in this tub, so that's her. And I know how much it takes out of a female, so I'm curious to see what it'll do with her after she's done with that one. So,
yeah,
dude, I cannot wait to see. Sorry, Lucas. I was just gonna say, because I'm excited for a second here, but
you're good. You're good.
I cannot wait to see what an albino citrus tiger looks like, man.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
I hope
because
it's like what I think it's gonna look like. You know,
what do you think it's gonna look like? Like
I think it's just
pre-shed, or just like as it matures?
I think as it matures, it's going to be contrast like you've never seen. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think it's just going to be, it's you know, like I think of, have you ever seen, what's the ball python morph? A black pastel albino. Hold on, let me see if I can.
Yeah,
find
yeah.
it.
Where
You know
it's
what
like
I'm talking
a
about?
crisp white and a real crisp.
Yes.
Yeah, like orangey gold, yellow. Yeah, they look amazing as babies. Actually, I think they hold nicely and look good as adults too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Black
they do because
pastel Woma.
Oh, Lucas, none of that Woma talk over here. You keep your Aspodites and your Panthasites.
Nice.
So like,
wait, even if it's in reference to
No.
ball python morphs?
Especially.
Shoot.
Shoot.
How many strikes
Yeah.
is that in the last 5 minutes?
Oh, I don't know. Swinging a miss. We'll keep going.
Okay, how do I? Oh shit! Here we go. Now I found it. I'm going to share it real quick.
Yeah.
Here we go. See, like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Real.
Even like
it's right there in the middle. There you go. Yeah.
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 That.
Real good contrast.
That black will be white like that, and like you'll have. Oh man,
that's weird. How it makes the pattern look like ocelot kind of almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens, and then I do actually want a fair amount of hets and not visual albinos, because I also would like to. Because you know how hard it'll be to tell caramel albino from albino.
Right.
I would like to be able to see some hets and see if they're all caramels, if they all come out red, or if I get normals in there, because that'll help me prove out if the male is a super caramel. But he's white and yellow. Like his albino he's crazy. His white is like crisp white and his yellow is crisp yellow. And it's just phenomenal. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's a super.
How do you think that the gray the portals side pattern, whatever you want to call it, is going to translate? What do you see there? Like,
I think that'll be purple.
That's what I thought, right? So it's going to be like these like yellow portholes on this purple side with this white, stripe, and then a yellow stripe. Dude, man, I'm so excited about it. I can't wait to see it.
We just have to wait till end of May.
Yeah, man. Holy shit.
And then you'll get photos first.
Okay.
And then we won't share them with the world yet. We'll just keep everyone waiting. And then we'll let you get to pick which ones you want from the clutch. And then people can see. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with those, dude. Like I'm going to have a hard time selling them, because like I know the project value, I know the sentimental value, I know the aesthetic value, I know the citrus tiger value, I know the morph value, and they're going to be striped. So I'm just going to, like I want people to have cool snakes, but at the same time, like
you might just have to burk the clutch.
I want cool snakes.
Guess what's going to get cut? Rainbow boas.
Yeah, dude, oh man, I feel that more and more. I'm like,
it's like, what are these things doing here? Be gone.
I feel that more and more. I'm waiting on a clutch of Exanic Coastals. So if I get better odds and I actually land some Exanic Tigers, then I can let go of some of the ones that I kept from last year, but I'll be letting, a bunch of that go. So that'll be nice. But next year I've got 2 female tiger head Exanics in the lineup that are ready to go.
Yeah. I think that's another one that will be really good. Again, I'm just going by, like, my mind kind of worked like this as far as like looking at carpet python morphs and how they would play out against, certain traits and stuff. And I would sort of look at ball python stuff and see like, so how did Exanic and this base color sort of work? And how did albino, you know what I mean? Like, how did this work? And I don't know, for me, a pastel Exanic, as far as ball pythons go, like I would be like, wow, that's really sharp. Like it's woo, like just the contrast is crazy. So I would think that like if you took that citrus tiger line and put it into Exanic, I think you'd get that same kind of pop,
But imagine well, what would that be called? An Exanic albino citrus tiger. What is that? Like a moon glow citrus tiger? Exanic and albino. What is that? Snow?
That's a snow, yeah.
Snow. Yeah, the hypo. So A snow citrus tiger.
See, I would worry about the two of them together because I think that you would take away the contrast, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like if you look at snow carpets, it's sort of like they sort of become, you can sort of like if you look into the light, see their pattern kind of thing. But like
you'd probably get more of a dramatic look not mixing the two.
What I got to do is I'll send you a hypo and you'll breed the hypo to the albino and intensify it more where you have caramel, albino, and hypo
on the citrus tiger. Oh,
you're like kicking it up like 2 notches, and then you make it super of each. Holy shit!
Oh, that'd be spicy. That'd be a spicy one. I could live with making that crazy cross. I'd be okay with that one.
Bye rainbow boas.
Dude, you know what's crazy? The other night I was like, imagine if I got to get rid of the Maclocks and the Doom Rolls I just got and the rainbows. And
oh shit.
And I was like, whoa, Riley, you need to like sit down right now, dude.
Yeah.
Just put the cart before the horse. But I'm just gonna like not sell anything until I have to.
Right. We're gonna when you guys come out to the East Coast, we go to the Pine Barrens. We're gonna lose Riley for like a couple hours, and he's gonna go sit on a rock and contemplate the future of his collection.
Yes.
Where it's just quiet. He's just gonna sit there like
everyone's gonna be like, why is there a destroyed patch of mushrooms over there? Why is there a pile of clothes? What the hell is Riley doing?
Right.
What did you eat?
He's swimming in one of those blue pools in the middle of the Pine Barrens.
Oh boy,
man! Yeah.
Oh, you'll dig that place, man.
I really want to go. I really want to. I'm hoping this year we can. I'm hoping that this year we can.
I think we can.
We can pull that off. Lucas and I can get out there. Yeah.
I think our Patreons will help with that, and get you do some Pine Barren videos. Cool.
Absolutely
sweet.
That would be awesome.
I need some fun inspiration that's worth filming because lately I gotta tell you, YouTube is it's kind of been a drag, and I don't pay attention to much of it, so I don't allow a lot of that negativity in. But man, like listening to Justin Smith had a great point in his recent podcast
100%.
With Scott Eiper talking about how the public perceives as somebody got bit by their death adder and they were keeping it legally or something like that. And all the comments were, wait, why are people allowed to have these? People shouldn't have those, normal citizens. And then he brought up this great point about how what the average person sees as far as reptile community portrayal is on YouTube, because that's, everybody's focus is on video and stuff. It's instant gratification. What's the most prominent YouTube reptile content? Well, it's the venomous, it's the free handling, it's the showboating, it's the ridiculous, it's the over sensationalized. And so people think we're all just nuts. And I got to tell you, man, every week it's a struggle to put together a video for YouTube, even though every week I get tons of supportive comments and people saying like, thank you for this stuff. I love that it's not sensationalized. Keep it up. Like, and that's ultimately why I do it. But even still, it's like, dude, there's something weird that happens in me when somebody is like, you're a YouTuber, and like whatever their point is, it has nothing to do with being a YouTuber, but that label, I'm like, that I don't like that, because right now a reptile YouTuber is not a good thing in the public's eyes. And so to me, it kind of just feels disgusting.
But if more people did what you did,
then you
would change the perception of what a YouTuber is.
Which is why I still do it every week, which is like that, the people commenting, saying nice things, and just every week it's just like, whatever, I'll just do it again. I'll do it again. And then, this week I have a great video because I got a surprise clutch of eggs. And I was like, this is fun. I'll put this out there because it's carpet pythons. That's why I started my YouTube channel, was to put more carpet python stuff out. The last week's video was a bummer because it talked about my injured carpet python and having to give her tons of meds, which is a pain in the ass. And it's depressing. And I see all this negative stuff being associated with a reptile YouTuber, and it just feels dirty. I just feel dirty. Yeah. And I don't like that. I want to feel good about what I'm doing. And so when I get those comments of support, that's when I feel good. But ultimately, like, I've been unsubscribing to a lot of reptile YouTube stuff.
Oh,
I've been turning it off. I don't watch a lot of it. I watch some of the Aussie folks and the people that go camping or build custom enclosures, but otherwise, like, dude, I don't even watch YouTube anymore, really. Like, reptile YouTube is trash. It's trash. Let's face it, right?
It's basically Tiger King in reptile form, right? That's what it is, right?
And you know, I'm getting all fired up right now, and I said I wouldn't do this, but like, I don't want to be a part of that trash, you know? And like, this is not part of that trash. Like, this show, I find, because we stay away from that, we stay very wholesome, we stay very educational, informed, people like it, and we get a lot of viewership, and we stay away from some of the sensationalism, we stay away from all of that. But you know, right now I just gotta say, like, I appreciate that people stick around on YouTube at all. Like,
you know,
the people watching this, thank you, because it's so bad. It's just garbage these days.
And I say this all the time, but like, you know, like I don't get why you need clickbait for reptiles. Like, they're the coolest freaking animals on the planet. You can pick any one, do a little bit of research, right? And everybody's raving about these naturalistic enclosures. Show what the animal does in the naturalistic enclosure. Like, I mean, like, live in zoology is a perfect example, right? Half the time there's nobody even talking. It's just a video of a reptile, and it has like words going across. You read in it. I'm not even reading it half the time. I'm just like, wow, look at this in its natural environment. It's like virtual herping, if you will. You know what I mean? So like, you know, I think that more people, I feel you, man. That's why I stepped away from YouTube, and that's why I struggled so long, not even to put NPR anything to do with YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, because I felt like, I'm like, God damn it, man. I've been doing these podcasts since 2011. And like, just because you have a microphone and you're going to talk to people, now all of a sudden you're going to call yourself a I don't know. And it's probably my ego or whatever. You know what I mean? We all have a little bit of egos. I don't know if ego is the right word, but you know what I mean?
We all do. It's part of human nature. And Lorga Sertal brings up a good point. I shouldn't say with a generalistic, broad, sweeping brush that all of YouTube is crap. All of reptile YouTube is crap.
We're talking about the main people.
Yeah, the main stuff. So the stuff that I found. I can't claim to have found and seen every single channel. So Lorga, your channel is probably not what I'm talking about, and your friend's doing a great job. Probably not what I'm referring to. I probably haven't found them yet. And it's just, you know, in general, a lot of what's prominent, the stuff that has millions of subscribers and views and stuff, the stuff that is, you know, according to YouTube's algorithm, the most front and center, that stuff is such a letdown more often than not for me. And surprisingly, like, being in the shop, in the reptile shop, is such a good, positive, encouraging, fun, excited, wholesome atmosphere that, like, I don't have to deal with that as much as I expected. I expected the YouTube world to be sort of like what the hobbyists see and glue to, and I don't get a lot of that in the shop. But yeah, I'm 54 weeks into YouTube stuff, you know, consistently pretty much. So that's like a whole year. Yeah. And it's like, on one hand, I don't want to just stop the work that I've done. I like that I get feedback from people that enjoy my content. I don't consider myself a YouTuber. I don't use clickbait. Every thumbnail for my video is literally a screenshot from within the video, so it's nothing faked or staged or made just for that. And I don't try to draw people in with nonsense, and to be honest, I don't want the fame and attention that those big people get that use that stuff. I don't want millions of subscribers. I don't want to feel like I have to do this for a living or full time or whatever. But like, at the same time, I do enjoy that it does something good for the people that are also, like me, tired of that nonsense. So
yeah, I think that more people, you know, so this is the approach we sort of took with NPR over the last couple of years, right? And I get why people sort of talk about it, but it's kind of like, to Justin's point, what he put here, and I couldn't agree with him more, is that you promote the good stuff and ignore the clickbait garbage. Just ignore it. Don't even. If all of us just ignored them, their views would stop. And if more people that want to do good content and they did the content, yeah, it may take a while. It may take some time. It may, you know what I mean? But eventually over time, like look what Phil Wolf is doing with his, what does he call it? The Venom, keeping venomous snake. Like I can't remember what he's calling it. Sorry, Phil. But basically it's footage of tips and tricks on venomous keeping, right? And what not to do and what to do. Totally boring, right? From it's no sensationalism stuff,
Right.
but the people that are looking for that information are going to love that, right? And they're going to love that content. And people are going to look at us, the average person is going to look at us as more of normal or in love with it. Because to me, and again, this is sort of where these conversations always go off the rails, is sort of like when we sort of paint these broad brushes of obviously I don't know every YouTube channel of reptiles out there,
right?
But I'm talking about the main one, the big ones, the ones that are making a living from YouTube. I'm subscribed to all of them. I watch Beachy Scaly Beast. I watch Coop's Reptiles. I watch Ricky Mack when he's doing his herping and stuff. I watch who's some of the other ones. There's Aborigine Reptiles. He does like really cool stuff with Australian stuff. And I don't know, man. Lucas does it too. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
That's why I like to surround myself with this type of people that are doing it in a positive way. And eventually over time, Cold-Blooded Cousins. That's another one. Yeah. They're freaking awesome, man. Like their herping videos in Australia is nuts, and like I can sit there and watch it for hours. I even watch, what's his name? Rob turned me on to him. Old school, Australian guy who Justin probably knows this as I'm saying this, he's the guy that found, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. He's the guy that found the rough scales with, what the hell is his name? Anyway, he's there on YouTube. He doesn't have a channel per se, but like his YouTube videos are great if you want to learn about Australia and the different spots and environments and all that kind of stuff. Old, but Harry Butler. Yeah. Just, I don't know, man. There's tons of stuff out there. Look, man, Justin's on a roll. Look, he's just machine gunning them all out. All right. Tons of cool shit.
His point is dead on. Like you can, the collective the reptile keeping population can essentially suffocate those channels by not giving them the views and the subscribership, or
make them change.
Or make them change. Like by unsubscribing or telling them that they're tired of X, Y, or Z will eventually make them change, because if they're living on that livelihood and people start leaving, then they have to change or find another job, which is fine by me. But like I get worried sometimes, man. I get really worried sometimes about the public perception of things and how big it's gotten lately with COVID putting a spotlight on all the exotic pet stuff. And And so, like every week I slug through another YouTube video, whether it's good or bad. And every week I'm like, do I really want to make another one? Like, and then every week it's like, yeah, all right. Yeah. And then we do these live ones, and I love the live stuff because it's just, it's on the spot. It's genuine. It's helpful. And it's usually guided by guests and conversation and good content anyway. So it, when we're keeping it in mind like that, it can't be bad. So like this stuff is fine.
It's funny. And this is sort of like how I gauge, certain things, right? It's like usually when me and Rob have our conversation once a week, he's been talking to me about carpets and coffee and how he's like really enjoying it because we're having conversations about variety of topics and like, throwing out ideas and sort of like bouncing things off of each other and the people that are watching and stuff. And like, to me, there's so much value in that. And like when you have a guy like, Rob Stone, who like, who knows as much as he knows, get something out of those things. It's like, okay, maybe that's huge. Are onto, what I'm saying? Like,
that's
maybe
very
we
flattering.
are onto something and just keep going with it. And I hope, the whole idea of doing this on YouTube and making an NPR network YouTube channel, right? I mean, we look at we're looking at the, subscribers and stuff like that. And we're like, keep trucking along, it'll get there. But hopefully when we start to be able to herp again, we can bring like good, solid reptile content that's not BS, doesn't have clickbait shit and all that kind of stuff. And just ignore the other shit and just keep going with what we're doing. And eventually the cream rises to the top.
Yeah. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And the only way you fail is if you quit, right?
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So that'll just be on us. And we'll just, I mean, you guys have already you and Owen have put 10 years of, blood, sweat, and tears into this empire you've built pretty much. Right. So, definitely not stopping anytime soon. So I'm really, really hoping that this summer, this fall, Lucas and I can fly out to see you guys and get out there, go herping out there. And
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. It's going to be
great.
Even if we got to hitchhike it all the way, we'll get there.
No, man. I mean, flights aren't that expensive. Dude,
it's $60 for me to go to Vegas and back right now.
Right. Exactly. So don't worry. It'll happen.
Yeah. I'm down. I'm super down. Super, super down.
Right. And eventually we'll make it to Australia and we'll get there too.
Yep. We'll warm up with a domestic herp trip. We'll just get our feet under us again. Right. Yeah. We got to flex the muscles a little bit. It's like stretching.
Train.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Practice.
Yeah.
Practice.
Right.
You want to talk about practice?
Right.
So,
oh man.
Well, I need lunch, guys. I need to get some food.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I don't know about you, but I think I missed Carpet Fest too. Good point.
Yeah, that's another one,
Missed Carpet
100%.
Fest. So
I still have to go to one.
Yeah. We'll pop your Carpet Fest cherry. Don't you worry, Lucas.
Well, when you come out here, we'll have like a mini Carpet Fest, right? I don't think Carpet Fest is happening this year, but we'll have like a little. You'll get your own little private Carpet Fest.
That'll do. That'll be great.
We'll call Howard ahead of time. We'll have Scally come down. We'll hit up Keith. We'll hit up Matt.
Yeah, no, I can't wait. It'll be great to meet everybody in person and
hell yeah, man.
Put some of this COVID shit behind us.
Yeah, I'll show you a blue tongue skink.
Man,
so
I gotta
make
see
the
your
trip
womas. Yeah,
Woma pythons. Yeah.
Hey, did you see we got that first clutch of Woma eggs?
I saw that.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
One down, two to go, or one more to go.
Watching?
So.
It's Brett. Yeah.
Brett is.
He'll just pop up now.
I'm sure. Brett. He'll be there, but yeah, we should have some soon. So
the reduced pattern clutch is the one you're still waiting on, right?
Yes, that one's still coming. That's the one he's gonna kill somebody over.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Brett, it's me. He's gonna kill me, but I'm closer, so I can drive over. That's why.
Yeah, you just got to be faster than
I have the upper hand.
Yeah, you got it. You got it, Lucas.
So we'll figure it out soon. But
cool.
Well, yeah. Hopefully next week when we talk, I'll be that much closer to whatever clutch is next. I think by next week I'll be only 3 days out from Crebo eggs if they aren't here already.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yep, and for people that didn't see on Instagram that have been following along with Riley and I's little blackhead breeding project, she dropped eggs, so that's awesome.
Yeah, she dropped 9 eggs, 5 of which were slugs, 4 of which are fertile. 2 of those fertiles are minor boob eggs. It's really not bad considering like sometimes you can see a boob egg where it like, takes up half of it. These are just like they should hatch no problem. So.
Fingers crossed.
Assuming all goes well, that's 4 blackheads.
That would be sweet.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
Very cool.
And I'll keep you posted on those womas. And
please do. I'll hop in the car. I'll be there. I'll be right over.
yeah, that'll be sweet. I look forward to it, man. This is gonna be a good season. Lots of eggs, lots of good Australian reptiles to produce.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
Heck yeah.
All right. Who wants to start the song and sing us on out of here?
I'll make it short and sweet. If you want to support us, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast. You can find it over on any podcast app you choose to use. Carpets and Coffee. Let's see. There's Morelia Python Radio. There's Student of the Serpent. There's Colubrid Corner. There's Carpet Cliff Notes. There is a Field Herping podcast. There is also yeah, Centralian Anxiety.
Huh?
Oh, when's
Humans-
that coming out? Did you record?
humans-
Did you record it yet?
Oh, I'm talking to Justin tonight, actually.
Humans of
Ooh,
Herpeticulture.
Yes.
Okay,
Nice.
can't wait to hear that. Yes,
Nice.
Justin's the man. And we have a monitor show that's going to be the first episode has been recorded, but still working out the details of that. So cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff in the works. Subscribe to all those. Yeah. What can I say? Cool
Sign
stuff.
up for Patreon if you aren't already.
Yeah.
If you want to support what Eric and Owen have built, go become a patron.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate everybody that has so far. And,
and
that'll
and
help get.
Next Sunday we're gonna do the first patron exclusive live Q&A. Right, next Sunday we'll do that.
Yes.
We'll reach out to everyone with details, but it will likely be a Zoom meeting, I think.
No, I found it. I'll get with you guys, but I found something that will work and right on Patreon, and you can sort of do it. So
perfect. All right, we'll reach out because we have all the patrons' emails. So if you're a patron of NPR and the inland tier, you will get a notification.
Sweet, that'll be fun.
So, that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure Owen will be glad to be included.
Yeah.
We love you,
we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. You got questions for us, there'll be comments just like in this show. And
Yep. It'll be all live Q&A style for a whole hour. You got us. So all righty.
All right.
Well,
thanks guys.
Thanks for the chat. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thanks for making it. This was a little bit longer than normal, but it's always the highlight of my week. So
absolutely
wouldn't miss it. So
great talking.
Yeah, man. Always until
good.
Next week. We'll catch everyone later for some more carpets and coffee.
All right.
All right.
Peace.
See ya.